Hello and welcome to the Blood and Ashes Wheel of Time on Amazon Season 1 Post-Mortem.
Quite a title.
Post-mortem?
Oh,
Wow.
yes. I thought discussion is so vague and ambiguous, and breakdown is so overused. Every man and his dog has a breakdown. And I thought, considering the sort of middling opinion that we have of the season as a whole, not to give away the whole show, it would be funny to call it a post-mortem. But I think it'll stick. I think other people are going to start doing it.
What do you call it
when
you cut up a dead body?
Yes.
A post-mortem.
The
Yes.
show is
It's the
dead,
same
and now we're
thing.
going to see why.
Dead now. So let's chop it up. I'm obviously joined by the two other members of our dysfunctional tripod, Jody and Willie. Hello, gentlemen.
Bonjour.
Good evening.
And let's set the scene. We have all just recently rewatched the entire series, well, the entire first season of Amazon's Wheel of Time, just to get ourselves in the right headspace, make sure that we remember things the way that they were. I don't know, did you guys also pick up things? I mean, there were loads of things that I actually picked up. I found my general opinion of individual episodes shifted a little bit, but not necessarily of the show as a whole. What would you guys say to that?
I've watched every episode multiple times, but an episode would come out, I'd watch it, and I would watch it the next day again. And then, but the focus tends to be the same thing. But watching it now for the first time in a very short space of time, back to back, as I've had plenty of time recovering at home, it has been interesting because I've also had the chance to look out for finer details, what's happening in the background and that. So that's been interesting. It's changed my perspective a bit on some of it, the general feel of where I stand with some episodes. But yeah, let's dive in.
Sorry.
Oh yeah, so go give your opinion.
I had a different aspect, well, a different perspective this time, because I watched episode 1 for the 5th time with my brother when he was watching it for the first time. So he's never, ever going to read the book. So I said, please watch the episode with me. And the whole time I was sitting there thinking, oh, what does he think about this? What does he think about that? And I thoroughly enjoyed episode 1 far more from a non-book reader perspective. When I got out of that mindset, the show is a completely different thing. And I'll go into specific moments in that, which over my first, like what Willie was saying, like the first time, and then you watch it the second time, the day afterwards, but your perspective doesn't change.
No,
like you don't see things that a new viewer might be like, oh, that's so cool. And now I'm like, oh, okay, now I see why you changed that and why you did that. And that does work. Not all the time, but
I don't know if it's the same for you, but also just a little bit of breathing room between like when it all aired and all the sort of hubbub was happening and all the discussions. I don't know if you guys were like me, but you were watching videos about it on YouTube as well.
Sure.
And just giving it a bit of time to settle and then watching it again, just it sort of cleared the air a little bit. I should say,
personally, for me, the memes, the videos, the opinions just became too much. I had to distance myself from all of it and just,
there's a lot,
actually enjoy a show. I don't want to read about, is there going to be a 15th book in the series? Question mark. And a lot of people were just throwing a lot of rubbish out there, and you just think, okay, stop.
I should say, that obviously we are going to spoil the whole first season of the show and quite likely major aspects of the books, especially where we talk about, changes from the book to the show. But I think there is a decent chance that we might do light spoilers for book 2. And there's one topic in particular regarding a certain antagonist that I think might actually be a spoiler for the end of The Dragon Reborn. So we'll try and keep it to a minimum. But be warned, if you haven't read till the end of Dragon Reborn, there might be a thing or two that pops up that might deflate you slightly.
You have been warned.
Yes, you have officially.
Sorry, Mark, go.
We're gonna break this down into a couple of sections. I'll put the chapter markers in the video description. so that when you inevitably want to go back and rewatch some of these sections, because obviously you're going to watch the whole video, and then if you want to rewatch sections, you can jump to them. I don't know what kind of psycho finds a YouTube video and immediately goes and looks for a chapter and then goes and listens to exactly that, but I mean, it's there if you want to use it. Yeah, the prosecution rests. So with all of that admin out of the way, let's get stuck in. I'll nominate a couple topics, and we'll pick at those a little bit. We'll try to be brief, otherwise we will be here all night. But let's see how this turns out. First things first, we've already touched on this slightly, but if I had to push each of you for a general opinion of the whole season and put a gun to your head and said, give me a score out of 10. Willie, what do you think you'd say?
7.2.
Love the decimals. I'm a decimal man myself. Should we switch to percentages? 72%. Okay. Do you have any like general comments or anything to, what is it that keeps it from hitting an 8 and what elevates it above your bog standard 7?
What would have made it a 10 is for me keeping true to the script that was written in the books. That's obviously the benchmark that I set it at. I measure it against the true source of the material. But what you sort of look at it something like this and say, to achieve a 90% in something television based, you really have to hit all the marks.
Yeah.
Where it missed the 8.5s for me, or the 85% mark, is there was unnecessary things brought in that didn't add to the story or add to the characters, which was really throwaway. And that time I would have rather used in the story to build in some things that I really felt was missing. And for that reason, an overall score of, maybe I was being a little bit, 7.5, 75%. That's around there.
I think that is the general consensus from the wider book reader community that I have been following as well. Exact same sentiment. Seemingly needless changes brought in at the expense of other stuff that really would have added a lot to it.
Yes.
How about you, Joe?
I'm not as generous as Willie. I'm at 65%. I'd say.
Did I take you mark your students this badly as well?
Yeah, you don't get a 10 in my class, tell you that much.
No, I mean, I'm guessing similar sentiments to Willie.
Yeah, this pacing was an issue. Quality of the writing, quality of the special effects towards the end of the show just got worse and worse and worse. The choppiness, you can see they made changes. I understand that COVID affected the production and they shut down, started and shut down, flew everybody around, and then one of the actors quit and left, whatever the story is. You know, I understand, but I am the viewer at the end of the show, at the end of the day, and I don't give a shit. I want my show. You know,
that's true. You judge it based on what is put in front of you, and all of those reasons are valid, but they ultimately do affect the end product. And the reason I reacted the way I did when you said that score, Jody, is once again the overmind is strong with us, because my score was also a 6.5. I think it is patchy across the board. You mentioned the writing. Sometimes it is so clunky and it just trips over itself so badly. Other times they say things I'm like, that's genius. It's beautiful. I love it. You know, like it veers wildly between genius and total fucking pedestrian nonsense.
It's a roller coaster ride of emotions. It's just like,
and that applies to the special and practical effects. It applies to the costumes. It applies to the sets. It applies to the pacing. You know, like it is across the board. It is just hit and miss all the time. So yeah, I don't feel comfortable giving it anywhere near a 7 even.
Oh wow. Guess I'm being quite generous then. But then again, I'm also easily pleased, and you know that.
So since we've already touched on pacing, plot changes, let's talk about those specifically. Changes. I mean, everyone has spoken, you know, a lot about changes. I'm going to get ahead of both of you and say that we've all come to expect, and accept changes. In general. I think when watching that first episode, you are just smacked in the face with it, and you're like, oh shit, this is going to be very different. And then it goes even further into the weeds, right? Like it's way, way, way off track. Changes in themselves, not a bad idea. Absolutely necessary for an adaptation. We understand that. The fact that they only have 8 seasons, and there's 14 books, problematic. The fact that we ended season 1 at the end of book 1 makes that even more problematic, because now we've got 13 books and 7 seasons.
Kind of got areas of book 2 in there as well.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
they try to mesh a bit together. What I really rated it against is knowing that there will be changes, but is there a core backbone, a spine to the story that I can identify in the book that flows in the same sequence? And to the greater extent, that for me is there. There's very key parts to the story. Is there backbone pieces that you will find? Let's just be, well, I said backbone. There'll be ribs that come off it that is different. But I want to have that
skeletal analogy
there. I want to know that they are moving from Shadow Logoth to, okay, they're not going to Whitebridge, but the party's split. That's there.
Yes.
The parties come together. That's there. The
line you hear from Rafe quite often is that they're adapting the series. They're not adapting The Eye of the World. This is an adaptation of the whole series split into 8 seasons. So they are laying a lot of groundwork now for stuff that's going to come later, which is a point of contention I will touch on later. So speaking of changes, Jody, can you name off the top of your head a couple changes that you really liked?
Oh, geez, put me on the spot. That I really liked.
Surprise.
I like the relationship between Rand and Egwene, that they aged the characters up and that you have more of these relationships, romantic relationships with them. I like that change. I found that okay.
Book, it's infantile, right? Like, oh, I've got a crush on her, I'm betrothed.
Yeah, it's very childish.
So,
one of our gripes when we read the book, we are reading the books and on the podcast as well, and especially in the beginning, is like they're all so childish and they're all making such stupid decisions, and it just pisses you off all the time. But we have a few more. They're still making dumb decisions, but they're adults and they have to deal with it now. Take responsibility. But on putting me on the spot, that one. If you guys come up with some more, I'll probably say, oh yeah, that one too. But
well, how about you, Vil? I mean, is there any change or changes in the show that you saw that you were looking at and going, well, actually that makes sense, or that adds something, or I just like that because it's rad?
No, none.
Just straight up.
Let me throw a couple.
It's like, I know why they did what they've done, but I didn't like the scaling up of age. I would rather them have a show that jumps in time, sort of starting it off at an age and saying 6 months later. There's nothing wrong with taking a break and saying time has passed in between that. It was just a part of what I like.
Recast the characters?
No, there's wonderful things that makeup can do.
And lighting and
I know. I mean, this is obviously an ideal thing, but I know why they did it. I read the explanations. It didn't sit well with me. I felt that some of the beauty of the book and that childhood innocence was lost in them already. They didn't appear to be innocent kids going into this great, and where you expect the failures. Now you kind of have adults that still have the same shortcomings, and you don't quite get to blame the fact that they're children, where it's easy to go and say, that's a stupid thing to do, but I understand why you did it. You're 17 years old. You got people that's now in their 20s, and you're like, now you're just a dumbass.
Well, look, I've been in my 20s and I was a dumbass. So I look at 21-year-olds now and I think bloody children, So they are still dumb children.
I understand that. And I agree. So how about some of these, and tell me if you like them or not. How about the Moiraine and Swan relationship?
No.
Don't like it?
Not particularly. I don't hate
like how it was used to create a very close bond that they have. without needing to spend a tremendous amount of time in explaining it. So I get how quickly the fact that they've got a romantic relationship can immediately secure that bond. But it more places the emphasis for me on them hiding a relationship, a lover's relationship from the rest of the sisters, as opposed to them hiding the fact that they know that the Dragon Reborn was born. They were present when the foretelling was there. That's not being emphasized at the moment, and their mission, and it comes across as them hiding their lover relationship.
Yeah.
So that's the danger of what they gambled with in doing it. Again, I would have easily cut out some of the nonsense that we'll get to, where they could have rather explained that relationship. And if they wanted then to have them also have a romantic relationship, by all means, go for it. But I feel that the weight and everything that they went through as young novices and young accepteds is going to carry so much more weight even in a romantic relationship, as opposed to just throwing in a romantic relationship with no background.
Well, I mean, it is,
there you have it.
Spoilers for A New Spring. It is hinted in A New Spring that they were pillow friends, that they had a relationship. And I thought that in the show, it actually is, like you said, a shortcut to, okay, we've got a secret and we are working together and we are allied, because without getting into spoiler territory, we know that later in the series, there are ramifications to having a secret kept from the rest of the Aes Sedai, and it's used as a tool to, you know, do things. So I liked that it's a sort of shortcut without having to explain the events of New Spring. Gitara Moroso actually gets a mention in the show as well.
Yeah.
They name her at one point, which is cool. It's for the readers, obviously. Okay, another couple quick hits. What do you think of Tom? Quite a change.
Love Tom.
Yeah, I did not like him when I first saw him, but then I was coming from that other mindset. But now I like him. I'm fully on board. Yeah,
I like the roguish elements. Logain.
I like him as well.
Logain.
I think that he is regal.
Super changed, but certainly more pronounced. It's a change to the story and his sort of presentation in the story.
Well, there's a change I like.
Yeah.
Going back to that first question.
The changes in Logain was also there to create the confusion in the first sort of watcher of the story. Like, is this the dragon? So I understand where all of that comes from. But again, we all know where Logan's going. I love
we do.
the way that it's, well, we do. I love the way that it's set up in that direction, and there's very little that's going to hamper it for me at this stage.
What I think is a missed opportunity with Logain is that cold open where Leandrid is chasing that 1-2 guys. That's crazy. They should have been chasing Logain. They should have showed that capturing him. That would have been like show the power of a channeler, like a huge threat
to the actual storyline. Yeah,
and then like at the end of episode 3 or 4, hey, we caught this guy. Who the fuck is this guy? You know, like, all right.
Okay, here's a couple of my bad changes. So
lay it on me.
5 Ta'veren and hiding the identity of the dragon. Like, they jumped through some hoops and just inserted a lot of stuff, like almost like in the dialogue, like, okay, let's change this number to this, or like add this phrasing in here to make it like, ooh, which one of the 5 is the Dragon Reborn? I did not like that. At the end of the very first season of the show, you find out who the Dragon Reborn is anyway. So what have you actually gained by building this like manufactured and contrived intrigue? It just, I don't know how it landed for non-readers, but for me, it seemed exactly that, contrived, you know, and clumsy.
We've touched on this in a previous episode where we said, who's this person going around measuring people's Ta'veren nature and marking them off? Again, like, I've heard of there's 4 Ta'veren in the 2 rivers. How? There's no. I know we're talking about magic books here, but how?
Look, it doesn't make sense.
For non-readers,
point,
just one point about non-readers. Oh, right, yeah. From what I've read and the people I've spoken to, one of my mates here as well, who's never read the books, they enjoyed that journey. They were like, "Oh, who's the dragon?" and talking about it with their friends, and like they enjoyed it. Non-book readers enjoyed the fact that they were left guessing as to who The people I've spoken to, at least. Maybe some others didn't, but I can see why non-book readers would have enjoyed that.
Okay, well, when I make a video where I interview two of my friends who have watched the whole first season and not read the books, I will be asking them specifically that question.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's see. I also hated everything that happened in Faldara.
Straight up, just hated it.
Oh God, man!
Look,
don't get me started. We'll get to aspects of it, but
yeah. No, look, like I said, that this show got worse and worse and worse towards the end. Wow, like, yeah, I was not happy. Faldara could have gone down completely differently and been much, much better.
Yeah. Okay, so that's changes. Now, let's touch quickly on pacing. Now, Jody, you mentioned earlier that pacing was weird and off. I mean, it's well documented. Everyone thinks that first episode was sort of all over the place. Like, are they going slow? Are they going fast? Suddenly everything's happening. They just leave the village. You know, like there's a lot of that going on. Do you have any further thoughts on the pacing specifically? Because I've got one big one that I think affects everything.
Well, episode 1 specifically?
No, the whole season. Like,
all right. Well, episode 1 specifically, to start off with, Rand and Egwene, like building their relationship. There's like 4 or 5 different scenes where you like, I get it. You know, you could have cut that like last part where Rand is sitting on the rock up in the mountain, sulking. And he's like, oh, I already know what you're going to do. Like, yeah, we know. You talked about it in the wine spring already. You know, we could tell you right after your little session. So, like, get on with it. There's a lot of pacing over there. I was like, oh, Jesus, just get on with it a bit. And then at the end as well, like, they have no more time, so it's rushed. And the whole episode 5, I think, is a downer for everybody. That whole Stepman storyline as well just brings the whole show, like, mid-season to a screeching halt.
Specifically on pacing, on the rewatch, from the word go. Everyone talks about the cold open of episode 1, you know, Leander and the Reds chasing that channeler who's, you know, seeing another man being the worst one and blah, blah, blah. But no one's talking about the fact that there's a scene before that. That's not actually the cold open. Moiraine in the tower getting dressed and narrating to the viewer, which is the only time that happens. She is dumping a lot of exposition right there. It's been so long, and there's a dragon that's going to be, you know, either save or, you know, destroy the world. And I've been searching for them for 20 years and blah, blah, whatever that fucking nonsense is.
Yeah.
It's just right off the bat. I feel like the writers felt like they had so much stuff to explain to people. But they have to get it out there as quickly as possible to get people on board so that like everything that happens a bit later on makes more sense. But I've always felt that the beauty of the books is that you are joining these villages in their little village. And then progressively from there, the story gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. It's the thing I always tell people that like a couple of books later, like some of these people are like kings, you know, and like, you know, governing nations and armies, and like the scale just keeps growing and growing and growing. But it starts small, and the characters are a cipher for the reader or the viewer. You know, like we're looking at the world through their eyes. So Moiraine like just blurting it all out, and like in the Leandrin and Red scene talking about Taverin and stuff. That's way too much. You know, for new viewers, don't do that. Focus in on the kids or the young adults, and you know, use that as an opportunity to sort of like educate them on how the world works, and in doing so, also the viewer. I felt like they just tried to do too much. And I mean, I can understand why, because there is so much there to actually relay. But at what cost? Like Moiraine and Lan rocking up in the village in the middle of the night, and the whole village like looking at them. That's like, again, manufactured tension.
Yeah.
You know? It would have been much more effective if, like in the books, there was this lord and lady in the town that nobody knew they were. They don't know they're an Aes Sedai or anything like that. And then when the Trollocs attack, suddenly she's throwing fireballs. Like, who the fuck is this woman? She's not talking to any of the characters, let alone the viewer directly, laying it all out. So I feel like in the show in general, they struggled with that, and I feel like lost the battle because they were trying to just educate the viewer too much. And not letting the stuff come out, naturally. Let Tam have a conversation with Rand about she's a nice guy. Don't trust them because they speak in duplicitous ways and blah, blah, blah. You know, like have the characters figure this stuff out and have the viewers come along on that journey.
Exactly.
So yeah, that was...
There is something to be said
by
just a little bit of text when a show opens up. The viewer just to read something.
But
you don't have to have everything.
You don't even need that. Remember when we did, I mean, plugging the podcast again, when we did the podcast, Phil, your favorite moment from that first section, right? Was the tension,
tension from the fade.
And the fade showing, who's this cloaked figure? Don't show the rows of sharp teeth or anything, just show this cloaked figure, and then Rand looks back and he's gone. You know, shit, what's that? Someone else, oh, Beltane, yeah, it's happy. Oh, someone else saw a Dark Rider. There's a mysterious lady in town. Tom doesn't have to be there.
The worst for me
could be
is that they got the scene there and they're using it to make crack jokes about picking berries. Come on.
To Jody's point, trying to build up this like Rand Egwene relationship beyond what it needs to be. It doesn't even have to be like the books, but what value is it adding? Anyway, enough of that.
Wait, this is going to be a 5-hour video.
It is. Right. So I'm going to try and rein us in. I know that I'm the one that actually blathers on the most, so stop me if I do.
All right.
Okay. Let's talk a bit about the cast and the performances. Right. So now, I mean, there's a lot of people here, so I'll direct our attention a little bit. Let's start with the Emansfielders, right? And I'm including all of Emansfield, so Tam and everybody. Is there, I mean, who do you think was done the best? Who do you like the most as their characterization and the performance as well from the actor?
Pick me.
Pick me.
You're in.
Marin Alvia.
Marin Alvia.
Liked her. She was your favorite.
Because that's the only person that there was very little changed on. Her honey cakes were referenced. She was motherly. She was caring. Everything was like it was in the books.
And then Bran was the absolute worst.
It was terrible.
The worst.
God awful.
There's a
but then again, also Matt's parents, Nati and Abel, absolute hated what they've done with them. I absolutely hate what they've done with them, making them this deceptive poor drunks, which they aren't.
Yeah, but you're looking at it from a book perspective, and I get that. Can I on this video be the guy that attempts to do it from the non-book reader perspective? Matt, I think that helped Matt's character.
Me too.
Changed my opinion on that because I obviously, like Billy, came from a book reader wide. So I think that, you know, he's desperate. He's a desperate man, and they built that up with like his mother is just the worst. His father's philanderer, his mother's a drunk, but he's got these two little sisters that he loves. And where later on in the story, all he wants to do is get back to them. And so many shit things happen to him along the way. And all he's doing is trying to get back to help his sisters. He doesn't want to do, you know, to be part of any of this Dragon Reborn crap. Like he doesn't believe it right until the end. He's like, this is bullshit. I think he even uses the word bullshit just to say like, no, like I'm done with this guy. So I think like,
this, do you?
This is not Matt from the books at all. I don't like Barney Harris's representation. I don't like the actor. I don't like the character of Matt personally, but I see why they did that. Like he's my least favorite Emansfielder. No, that's harsh. Perrin is my least favorite. But
character or portrayal? Like
portrayal is Perrin. That Perrin, not just in comparison to the books, but also just in the show, he's just like a mopey, useless. He has no story arc. Like he's just being dragged along the way. And
I want to jump in there and stand up for Beefy Boy.
Yeah,
because first of all, I think the casting of Marcus Rutherford is fantastic for Perrin. I think he plays a Perrin very well, a more retracted, introverted, likes to figure the things out.
He looks like he physically actually is trying to decrease his size.
Yes, all of that for me fits in there. That is done well. What the writers has done a complete injustice towards his character is they haven't included any background to him. we do not know, and I've mentioned this before, is he a blacksmith or not? Because we haven't seen him work metal. There's no introduction to
the closest you get, Phil,
wolfiness.
to him being a blacksmith is because I remember you making this comment before, and when I rewatched it, I think is it Nynaeve or someone that says to Perrin, Leia's back in the forge and it's hard working the forge by yourself, implying that he also works the forge. So there is the faintest of hints that he might be a blacksmith's apprentice at the very least, and that Leia is the Leia? Lena? Lena? Layla?
Leia.
Whatever the fuck.
Layla.
Layla?
Leela? I don't know.
Doesn't matter. She did.
She did. Okay, but yes, blacksmith. We don't know the changes that his parents are in town and all of that, but you never meet his parents. It's there's a lot of things that doesn't build his character to this person that he is. That's just completely missing. Then him just walking in the forest, bumping into a couple of wolves with a lick on the leg, and all of a sudden he's got yellow eyes. There's absolutely no explanation for this. There's zero explanation. You don't know if the guy picked up a virus from the wolf's tongue, or is he infected by wolfism? Is he going to turn into a werewolf? Like what the fuck is actually happening here?
But to be fair, in the books there isn't either. They don't
we have Elias in the books to explain to him what's going on, to explain to him and the reader.
Sure, and again, but I mean, it doesn't explain where it comes from or anything.
No. But I mean, I hear what Billy's saying.
Just I've got this affinity. This is my wolves. They hang out with me. We can speak to each other. A very quick introduction, and then they move on to the Tinkers. One of the people that were casted for me, almost the most identical to, and without having to dye hair and get physically extensions and wear contact lenses or anything to change a physical appearance. He fits the role fantastically. He acts the role brilliantly, and they've done so little to reinforce that character as Perrin.
I will push back on that slightly, and Jody, you're shaking your head as well. In the beginning, I used to think Perrin was okay. He was fine. On my rewatch, I've turned on him a little bit, and I feel like the portrayal of him is, if you think about what Perrin from the books now, again, book reader, right? So keep me in check here, Joe. The Perrin's defining qualities are that he is considerate and thoughtful, and he is slow to act. Now, if you take that and you convert it to the show, how are you going to portray him? Show him struggling with maybe rage and emotion, juxtaposed with his thoughtfulness. Like, he wants to be careful and thoughtful and considered, but he is sometimes pulled into situations where he has to, act emotionally. But where it falls flat in the show is that that's not clear. He just looks, like we said, mopey, and sometimes he just looks straight up confused. Like, he doesn't look thoughtful. He looks shell-shocked.
You mentioned there he's slow to act. In the show, he looks slow to thought. He looks like he's not, he's like the special kid that everyone takes pity on in the town or something,
Anyway, let's move this along. Yes, Perrin, not great. I get it.
When I saw Marcus Rutherford, I thought, this casting is brilliant, and then the show is just like wasted him. Anyway, continue.
They can still fix that. My favorite Emansfielder, Matt, hands down. I like this new version of him. And I think Barney Harris's portrayal is the best in the show. I think Barney Harris is the best actor out of anyone on that show. And I'm putting Rosamund Pike in that list, right? Like, she's great. She has, maybe not her fault, but some of her dialogue is also a bit clunky and weird. But I feel like Barney Harris totally embodied that persona. I said it on one of our previous videos and stuff, like the way he holds his body and just his general attitude, the way he delivers his one-liners, which are great at times. I mean, they're like when he tells Rand, no, you're right about Moraine, but we don't know what the fuck we're doing, and she does shoot fireballs, so let's be more. That's not how roads work. When Rand says all roads lead to Tarvalon, he's like, Rand, that's not how roads work. He was good at that, and he certainly looked fucking afflicted by the dagger and all that sort of stuff, right? And then was scary when he had to be scary. And yeah, losing him was like, you could lose almost any other actor in the show to me. And that was my favorite one. And his portrayal was my favorite. And now he's gone. And it's like, fuck, okay. All right.
I can't disagree with you that he was a good actor, or is a good actor. He's great, but I'm not a fan of that character of the TV show Matt.
The one that will steal from a mutual friend and that sort of thing. Yeah. I mean, they've pushed that much further than the books. The books have.
Yeah, okay, they've move on. Taken his mischievous nature and added a couple of years on without correcting behavior, and he's turned into a bit of a criminal, which could very possibly have happened.
But this version of Matt is driven by the desperation of his family situation, right? So he is pushed further than Book Matt is. Like, you know, Book Matt is mischievous, but he doesn't have to steal to feed his kids. His father's a very successful horse trader. You know, in the show, they are down in the dumps, and he generally worries for his sisters. So he gambles a lot. I mean, in the books, he's a massive gambler, and here they give him a reason for being a gambler, which is cool. We have to move on, otherwise we are going to be here for an eternity.
So we have to make video 2 because I'm leaving so much behind. Yeah, let's go.
Okay, now I'm gonna pull the pin out of this hand grenade. I'm gonna lob it at you guys. So please be conscious of the blast radius and keep your answers as succinct as possible in this one. What do you think of Moiraine and Lan?
Moiraine and Lan, there's very little that I can fault. Rosamund Pike is just a fantastic actress. And Lan, we've had an in-depth discussion in another video about Lan. Lan is everything that I thought Lan would be. He could have been more buff, but there you go, Jody. Here we go, he's already going.
That exploded.
So elaborate.
Lan is great.
What is
Lan is not great. What are you talking about?
Terrible.
Moiraine is good. I like Rosamund Pike. Like one of
the
episode 6 or something. I'll get to it eventually. Her performance is just like, she grabbed me. I enjoyed that episode so much because of her. Or was it? I can't remember now. But anyway, but Lan as well. The relationship between the two also very, very good. I like that they're so close. That bond that you can really, really tell. They push it too far, as we'll get into later on. But Lan as a character, like Lan and in general, by extension, the Warders, I did not enjoy. They do not seem threatening in the slightest. Like episode 1, you see Lan chopping up Trollocs like crazy. And then that's it. I don't recall seeing him fight ever again.
In episode 4, the Warders should have been mowing those dragon army
Spawn,
guys
that dragon
down.
Spawn army.
They should have been like all over them.
Yeah,
with sisters at their backs, you know, like, come on. Yes, Lan, the emo thing, and this is one of my biggest gripes from what people have been saying about some of the characterizations, is that Lan's stoicism won't work on TV because no one wants to watch a guy that doesn't talk. But that's bullshit. If you crank that up to 11, and I don't know if it was to you guys that I made this comment once, if you have someone like, he's in Emmonsfield, right? Like he's there, he's this mysterious guy. Have someone like Marin or Bran or someone walk up to him and offer him like a beer or something, and he looks them dead in the eye and doesn't say anything. That's communicating something without words. You know, that is the thing. And then you go, oh, fuck, okay, who's this guy? He's not normal. He's not doing, you know, people things like other people do. Later, when someone says something to Moiraine, have him like bare his sword or something, you know, like really make him intense in a way that is visually and, you know, pleasing in multiple different ways. Because what happens then is when Lan and Nynaeve eventually get together, that makes that so much more of an impactful thing. Like, here's this woman that has actually cracked this guy's impenetrable shell. You know, it shows a real, okay, fuck, Nynaeve has actually really gotten through to him. So all this emo stuff, like, you know, him shouting at that warder fucking funeral and stuff, I'm swearing too much. You know, like all that nonsense. It just, of course he's going to fall in love with the first girl that sleeps with him. Yes. Yes. Emo Lan. Of course he's in love with it. Like, it's not earned, you know, it's too easy for Nynaeve. Anyway,
Lan and the Warders are weapons primarily. That is the reason for their existence.
That's their function.
Not just hang around campfires, drinking beers and laughing with each other. And like, I was just like, dude.
And I'm sure to non-readers, it looks fine. But what happens is they lose out on the really cool thing, which is these guys are walking death.
Yeah.
You know, like they are weapons.
You've got to also just understand that this is two different mediums. And sometimes if you want to have the full thing, pick up the book. And we all know this from every adaptation of every book that's gone to the cinema or to the small screen, that you ask someone like, how does this fit to the series? And they're like, read the books, it's so much better.
I'm not saying keep it the same as the book. But what I am saying is make it better. You know, it would have been better. And they had the source. So why change it to make it worse? What are you gaining from that? And I mean, this is a prevailing theme, and to me it's exemplified by specifically Lan, and by extension the Waters. Make Stepan the jovial warder, the one that jokes. That makes him stand out as well, and that makes him more personable, and you know, like a character that you get invested in, so that when he does die or kill himself after his Aes Sedai dies, preferably very soon after, you know, like
way better ending to that later. It's like he could have
let him throw himself into battle,
seen her dead,
and die,
and stabbed himself Harakiri style right there. Like, I can't do this. She's dead.
Or thrown himself into the battle where it's, you know, the hottest and where he has no hope of coming out. Like just break ranks and charge in by himself because he's, you know, blood rage. Anyway, Land of the Waters.
We would have had a lot of time to explain parents' relationship with the wolves, as an example. That
or literally any one of the other amazing things.
Yes.
Yeah.
What did you guys think of Leandrin?
Great.
Quick hits.
Ooh, she well casted. Kate Fleet.
Yeah, well cast, well acted. I prefer Leandrin from the series than Leandrin from the books.
Absolutely.
Now, I'm
Leandrin
getting
from the books is totally one-dimensional.
I'm getting the feeling that Leandrin and Elida is going to be a singular in the series.
For sure. I think so too.
That's what I'm
I
getting
think they've cast
at the moment.
Elida already. Well, they're suspecting that woman that was cast is going to play Elida. So I think that's true as well, that Elida might be coming in there, and then there might be some conflict, which we know breeds good story, between Leandrin, who's done all this work to get into position, and here comes Elida to come and mess it all up. So anyway, book spoilers. Anyway. There's another Aes Sedai called Elida from the Red Aja.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What did you guys think of Swan?
I really like Swan. I'm scared to say I like someone, because then immediately after that, you go like, how can you even like it?
Seriously, we're entitled to our own opinions.
This is an example of a non-book reader perspective that I picked up here. In that opening, that cold open where we see Swan as a little girl. Like you don't know it's her until her father calls her by her name, all right? And you see, okay, she's this little fisher girl. And then the next scene is like, oh, they're going to meet the Emerald seat. And in walks this woman, and who is it? And she turns around and she sits down, and you see the tats, and you go, oh shit, it's Swan. Like, of course, as a book reader, I'm like, that's Swan. Like, as soon as they showed that little girl, I was like, oh, there she is, and there she's the Emerald. But to someone who doesn't know, that must have been like, because her dad says, you're going to be something great one day. And then in the next scene, she's the Emerald seat. And I can imagine to a non-reader, that must be like, oh my God, her dad was right. Look how awesome she is.
And but also her entrance on the show.
Me. Yeah.
Her entrance as the Emerald.
Yeah.
Mint. Loved it. It was actually so much more effective visually than it was in the books to me. The reverence of the hall and everyone when she walks in, like how she talks to everyone and how calm and collected she is, even after Logan spews all that shit at her. She is that intro to Emerald Swan, not young girl Swan, was amazing. I mean, the cold open was also great. I mean, I love the little name drop of like, you know, we non-readers wouldn't know how unsafe it is or why it is not safe for a channeler in tier. But when the dad says, when it's safe for someone like you in tier, then you can come back, sort of thing. And we're like, oh yes, because those goddamn Terrans are so ass backwards when it comes to channeling.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff we take for granted, and then that's lost on us. Like a lot of the show to non-book readers was rad, and there's very cool scenes like this that I finally got, like last night, to be honest, watching the show, like, oh, okay, now I see.
There's a couple of reasons why that episode is my favorite in the whole season, episode 6. But it's also the first episode where the music connects with like really connects with the character, and I feel that the score actually carries a lot of weight.
Cool.
That's everything there worked for me. It's as if they sort of hit their creative stuff with that episode, and then it just frazzled out 7 and 8.
Talking about the score, to carry on the grand tradition from the podcast, put a pin in that one, and we'll come back to the music at the end. We touched on Tom, kind of in agreement that we like him. I thought the fact that his core character motivation is still intact, with his nephew Owen and all that stuff, that was awesome. What I would have liked to see from Tom, which I only really it only sunk in for me on this last rewatch now, is I really would have liked to see Tom emphasize to Rand that he needs to keep Matt away from the Aes Sedai. Like, he says that to him, and all Rand's actions from that moment forward is that. So he's hiding Matt from the Aes Sedai and Tarvalon and all that sort of stuff. But if you even just had Tom say, repeat after me, do not let the Aes Sedai near Matt, like that sort of thing,
Yeah.
A lot of Rand's activity post that scene would have made a lot more sense, or would have been a lot clearer, like what his motivations are, like why he's drawing a sword against Lan. I mean, what the fuck are you going to do?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's Tom. Paden Fane.
Ooh, what about Nynaeve and Egwene? We keep on forgetting about the girls.
We spoke about the Eamon's Field 5 in the beginning, and I asked, because there's so many of them, favorites not. Do you have anything in particular to say about either of them?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I think
me too.
Go for it.
Egwene is incredibly well cast in being naive, very, very naive in a lot of decisions. I think it is a really good fit. There's not a lot that I can say wrong at all about Madeline Madden playing the role that she's playing there.
No,
Jody, do you have anything you'd like to add there?
Dude, I love her. I love her characterization of Egwene as well, and her motivations, the kind of person she is as well. She's always like, all right, we've got to do it. What do we do? What do we do next?
Yeah,
I'm up for it. Always, always willing to help and go the extra mile. And that's like totally
sees the sense of following Moraine. Like, Rand,
exactly.
Fucking pack up your emotions. Just, we have to do this. Let's just go do it. In
that last episode, like the everyone who goes who's not the Dragon Reborn is going to die, and she's like, well, I'd rather take that chance, because even if there's the slightest chance that I can help, I'm going to do it. And that's I was like, Gwen, here you go, girl. Yeah.
What about
Nynaeve? Nynaeve is a bit of a hit and miss for me. Like, a lot of times, like, she's brilliantly cast, and a lot of times I love her, and then other times I'm like, what are you doing? Did she try to kill Lan? Like, I thought she was a healer, but what is she? Is she trying to help people, or is she trying to murder people? Because she tries and succeeds, like in the battle as well. She stabs that soldier to death when the dragon swarm. Like, I know it's self-defense, but I mean, you don't have to put her in that position, or Lan could have like jumped in between them or something. So she's willing to kill, and she tried to kill Lan in like episode 3, like straight off the bat. And I thought she was a healer. She's more concerned with helping
probably
people.
them trying too hard to show that she's fierce.
Yes.
That is a very big push. I mean, she does kill a Trolloc off the bat in that episode in the cold opening. But they've done the same with Egwene, where she kills the White Cloak.
She doesn't kill him.
What's his name?
Eamon
Valda. She stabs him with a knife.
Yeah, but look,
up the top neck. It's generally a killing.
I checked. She missed the carotid artery.
No, he's not dead.
No, definitely
because
not.
If there's anyone that should have killed the White Cloak, it's Perrin.
Do you want to touch on Eamon Valda, or are we done with Nynaeve?
Oh, he's brilliant. That's one of my favorite changes to the books, from the books, is to the series. It's the White Cloaks in particular. They are a serious threat, and they are disturbing. They make your skin crawl.
Yeah, Valda personifies that, right? Like that portrayal and that, rendition of him is not spot on, because it's way different from the books, but it is fantastic.
It's better. Yeah, like
I had one last thing to say about Nynaeve.
Yeah.
That on this rewatch, because originally I thought she was a bit much, like they cranked it up just a little bit too much. Like sometimes she was downright silly and like put herself in ridiculous positions by saying ridiculous things. But the more I reread the books as well, she does do that. he is, like, I mean, in a recent episode, really, like, we also just lamented how like bad her decision making is about, like, what disguises they wear in a certain city and that sort of stuff. Like, she's sometimes just wrong, like, so I should let her be wrong in the show as well, especially since the show is still at the very beginning of the story. So maybe he matures into, without spoiling her sort of future track.
She's trying to be a wisdom. She's trying to grind herbs and treat wounds, and in the background she actually didn't know, she channeled a little bit to help them actually overcome their illnesses. But other than that, she's still a 26, 27-year-old child that has got a little bit of an issue with the fact that people call a child. So insecurities abound and aplenty. So it is there, and she pulls all of that off together. And
that's what Moritz said now. Like, we've coming from a position where we know these characters as they, at the end of the book series already. We're like, come on, and I think that might be a thing with Perrin as well. Like, I hope that he evolves, and as he gains more confidence, his body posture changes, and he stops with that party open mouth crap that he's always got. Like, maybe this is just a transitional
literal
phase.
Mouth breather.
Yeah, like, I can't stand it. So hopefully he becomes later on, and then maybe that's why they're doing it so pronounced in the beginning, to show his change over the course of the series.
So just to go back to the White Cloaks again, there was one more thing that I wanted to see from the White Cloaks. Firstly, that, that tracking shot that goes into their camp, at the beginning, it was in episode 2. From the beginning, I love that. And the more I watch it, the less I like it, because I feel like the White Cloaks are, because of their, non-magic ways and, like, what their strengths are, I feel like that camp was too small. That was too small a group of them. It seems a little bit sparsely populated, and, like, I don't know if the tent setup that, and I mean, this is fucking technical, the tent setup they had will accommodate all the stuff that they need to move with them and the soldiers. It was a little too thin.
I think that's just the questioners camp, not the bulk, or not the army, not the fighters that are led by Bornhold.
That's true, because Bornhold isn't there. Doesn't mean he is not there at all, but I mean, the way that they present Valda in those scenes is that he is the man in charge there. So maybe it's not Bornhold. Quickly on Bornhold, that comment he makes about finding an Aes Sedai in Whitebridge was asinine.
So stupid.
that slipped through the cracks. Someone should have stopped that from being uttered on screen, much less showed to the fucking world. Bullshit. So okay, now Paden Fane, what do you guys think?
Oh yes, back to Paden. Great. Yes, I think we all said, like, yes, love him.
Sorry, okay, before we get to Paden, sorry, Fane, you deserve nothing. You guys were jamming me up for not mentioning Egwene and Nynaeve. No one's spoken about Rand.
Oh, that guy.
The Dragon Reborn.
Yes.
What did you guys think of it? I think that's telling, right? It's just like
he's middle of the road. Physically, he is perfectly cast. Like, he's an Aielman. Spot on. Couldn't have done it better. Again, like, I think because of that whole, like, who's the Dragon Reborn, they kind of pushed his character and his scenes down a bit to try and hide him. Yeah.
His screen time is some of the highest.
Really? But he never does anything in that screen time. Like, nothing impactful that I really... Pulling that bat out of his mouth is probably the highlight of his total journey.
It was cool,
yeah.
Cool effect.
But
anyway.
I mean, like, the blowing up Balsamon didn't really have an impact.
Until the last battle, So nothing happens until the last 15 minutes of episode
8. Okay, Fane, you can come back into the room now. What did you guys think of this interpretation of Paden Fane?
Love it.
Again, great. Third time now.
It's brilliantly casted, menacing, and just
much more menacing than that gutter crawling cur from the books. This guy shows some, like, ill intent and a unsettling amount of nonchalance, walking through the ways and stuff. They do a couple cool things with, like, hiding him in the background and, like, putting up the whistle, and when they're moving through the ways and Lan says something's following them, and like, they eventually leave the ways, there's a flash of light and he's also just standing there in the dark. Very, very cool. Also, this is going to be embarrassing, but I noticed for the first time on this most recent rewatch, his whistle in Shadow Logoth, which is a fantastic tie to make, because as we know, readers of the books, like it is known that he is, in Shadow Logoth, and brings something with him as well, which in the show is probably missing for non-readers, right? Like non-readers who don't rewatch and connect the whistle with Padan Fain and then hear the whistle in Shadow Logoth, they wouldn't know that he has anything to do with it.
It doesn't seem like he does have anything to do with Shadow Logoth. Like, it's not Shadow Logoth that changes him into what he is. He's already that. I mean, at the end of the last episode, he says, "Why do you think I came to the Two Rivers, that shit town, for so many year after year?" So it seems like he's been this badass menacing dude who has two fades follow him around for years already. Shadow Logoth has
badass dark
nothing to do with
friend,
it.
for sure.
He's more than a dark friend in the series, I think. Dark friends don't have fade subordinates.
That's true.
Like, he is something else already and has been for a long time.
Yeah, but he is in Shadow Logoth when in the show. Yeah, when the boys are when the gang,
and he does go after that dagger right at the end.
When Matt
this is not
sort of
Fain's...
like leaving the room to go find the dagger. That's when you hear his whistle, and that's sort of, to me, kind of justifying Matt also leaving. Like, it would have been better if Matt heard the whistle and woke up, or like heard it and then went outside to go investigate it. Then you see a shadow move through that doorway and then follow that. That makes sense. And I think that for readers of the books, it's cool to see that connection between Fain and Shadow Logoth. What are you saying, Will?
That it's not his first rodeo to Shadow Logoth. He's been around already. He's already been influenced by a lot, I think.
Yeah.
So it's just that add 5 years experience to what Fain is in the book.
Yeah.
And then you've got him where he is now. He's come to grips with how insane he actually is. So whether we'll see him nail a fade to a door or something is yet to be seen.
I think he's already done that. That was 3 years ago.
Already done that.
Yeah. No, I think that's
well, two fades now.
To speed up the show. Like, we're not going to watch Fain's transformation into becoming Ordeith. He's already there.
He's already
there. Time.
Yeah. What did you guys think of the Shadow Spawn, which I guess here is Trollocs and Fades, basically?
Great. Started really great and ended so badly. Like, I was embarrassed by episode 8's Trollocs.
Yeah.
Could be the quality of my TV. I don't know.
I didn't mind the Trollocs as much, because that's the one thing that people are like harping on, is that episode 8, the Trollocs look like garbage. I mean, they look like CGI. I've seen worse CGI, and not that long ago. It's not too bad. The worst CGI is the same stuff that I brought up in our first episode breakdown, when or the second episode, where they're following them through the woods, and then there's a scene where they cross the river. It's also this totally unnecessary scene. The lighting looks completely wrong, and the Trollocs look god awful. That completely undoes all the, like, let's face it, amazing work they did with the Trollocs on Winter Night. That stuff is top notch. I was so scared about what that was going to turn out like, and it was way better than I expected. Which was such a relief, only to have that relief dashed on the fucking rocks.
There's a couple of examples of that. Like, something's done really well in one scene, and then again later on it's done shit. All you've done is proven that you can do it properly, but that you chose not to.
The fade in episode 8, that's standing on a rock and shouting at the Trollocs to like go attack in Faldara and stuff, looks terrible. It looks like a placeholder. It's just completely, and I mean, it's going to sound ridiculous to say about a fade, but completely featureless. But it looks like there's no texture whatsoever. It is so bad. Hated that.
It needs a remaster.
Like, you guys know I like the fades, and that was bad. The fade in the episode at the Grinwell farm, terrifying.
That was good. Terrifying.
Love that.
Yeah. And I like Tom there, that you can see that Tom knows how to handle himself. Oh, speaking of, that's something that's missing from the books that I didn't like, that's changed in the show, is that from the books, the kids already know how to handle themselves. We spoke about this a lot. They all know bows. They all know, they don't know how to use the sword, but a bow and a quarterstaff, they can handle themselves in a fight. Whereas it's not the case in the show. I mean, where's Matt's quarterstaff? Damn you.
Well, in the books, Matt also only pulls that out in book 3.
But he knows how to use it from the beginning. He pulls it out and he's a pro at it. I mean, something you could have shown.
In the Eye of the World?
No, I don't think so.
He uses a bow.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't use anything.
No. Matt is sick
in the
half
show.
of the Eye of the World anyway. He's just ridden with the dark. Yeah. So after collecting that beautiful dragon.
What I was surprised by is how adept Perrin is at using an axe on Winter Night.
Oh, yeah.
You know, him and his wife are taking down.
He's really good at killing wives.
Yeah. All right. What did you guys think of Logan? We touched on. What did you think of Baalzamon? So tread lightly here for spoilers, obviously, but Baalzamon?
Baalzamon has been done very, very menacing with his furnace mouth and eyes, with his silly outfit and everything else that goes with it.
I still don't think his outfit is silly. It's wearing clothes from the Age of Legends.
Yes, he is. This is a silly outfit.
Is it you referring to the white shirt with the 3 different levels hanging off in front
of
him?
No. When he reveals himself in his not, but it's his matrix coat.
Oh, his matrix coat. Yeah.
If you're gonna have burning eyes and burning mouth, just have a little bit of burning coat behind you as well, tassels, and look really menacing.
That would be too different from the books,
really. For instance, where Fane leaves Valdara with the 2 Fades flanking him, the Fades have clean cut coats and tailored clothes. They're no, it should be raggedy tattedy. They shadow
Fades have pride. Fades are people.
Style, man.
Don't they the offspring of Trollocs. Look at the Trollocs. They don't even pride. They pull each other's guts out. No, you're going to get culture from a Trolloc and then all of a sudden have a clean-cut black matrix cape. No. Just no.
Costume design is our topic of choice today.
Costumes is the next section.
Okay, so we've discussed are we jumping to that straight away, or we got something more?
No, there's just a couple more. I mean, the characters obviously are the most numerous in the show, and that's why it's taking a long time to talk about them. But I think it's worth talking about some of them, like Baalzamon over here. What did you guys think? We spent time on Logan. He had his day in court. What do you guys think of Min?
Not a fan. She seems a bit old.
Philly putting his neck out there. I like her. Oh. But she's older than Rand in the books as well.
I mean, okay, but I mean, she looks much older. Old. She needs a cane for walking. I don't know. Billy, tell us how much you love her.
I really like Min.
I like her attitude.
I think it was great cast. Like her attitude, her short hair, dressed like a boy. Everything that's in the book. There's nothing that I can go and say I dislike about it at the stage yet. We still have to get her into the meat of the whole story, but Min's great.
One thing that I didn't like about what Min did in the show, not about her portrayal necessarily, is this is obviously the fault of the writers, is that when Rand asks her, do I make it back from the Eye of the World? She goes, and she just gets up and she walks off. Oh, she tells him this whole long story about her first vision and divulges all this detail. Do I make it back from the Eye of the World? And it gets up and leaves. That is purely so that the viewers go, is he going to make it back from the Eye of the World or not? That's not in character, if she's divulging other information, why would she not at least tell him that he makes, if she's had a vision of him doing something else, which we know who Rand is, she would have visions of other things in his life other than him standing there holding a baby, which also what baby is that? Is that the baby from the vision?
Is that Joya? From the vision? That's what I thought as well, because later on he's going to have a vision where he has a baby. Okay.
I didn't get that. I didn't get that vision. I didn't understand its relevance, because if Baalzamon is placing a dream for Rand, how is she got privy to a dream? She sees things that happen.
Yeah.
And nowhere in the book series is she.
I mean, does she have visions of every other alternate reality that whatever Baalzamon or Rand or anyone can dream up?
It muddies the water.
That's the part. That's the part of the Min components of the show that I disliked actively. Okay, 2 more to go, guys, and neither of these are people. Mashadar and Mashinshin.
And Loyal.
Oh yeah, we skipped Loyal. Sorry, Loyal.
Oh, sorry, Loyal. Shame. Well, let's do Mashadar.
Okay, quick hits. Mashadar.
I liked it. It serves its purpose.
It's fine. Yeah, it was fine.
It's menacing and scary, and it tries to eat your feet.
Black, therefore bad.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
I
thought it also was... black. So it's bad.
Both of them failed for me horribly.
Yeah.
Well, they're fine for me. Like they don't have to play like a major role in the story. Like they're menacing things. You got to get away from them, and they serve that purpose. Okay, done.
Mashin does deliver a nice little piece of plot progression for Rand. You know, actually nice little glimpses into all of them for Perrin, and it was nice to see that the thing that Mashin thought would hurt Moraine the most is to tell her that she's going to kill these kids and call it bravery or whatever the line was. I was like, okay, yeah, that to me that's reassuring as a viewer and reader that that's the most important or the biggest fear that she has. You know, that she is actually worried about them. And I mean that little device was cool, but in the books, and I'm putting on my reader hat and knowing full well that how this is going to come across to non-readers, in the books, it is just much more menacing. Here, they just got told a bunch of stuff they don't like to hear. Okay. So what?
And then enough for them to cause a fight afterwards.
Yeah.
Like Perrin and Rand having their little lovers quarrel over Green for me was just unnecessary.
Yeah. All right, this is going to be a beefy one. Loyal. Willie, pause and let Jody go.
Jody, you go.
I saw the leaked footage, this leaked photo of him before the show came out, and I, honest to God, thought it was a joke. His character design when I saw him.
Yeah.
I thought this is definitely a joke, or this missing CGI, and then he pops up in the show like that, and I'm like, what the fuck is this thing that I'm looking at? What is that hair? Like personality wise, I think they got him, although they rushed him. Like they should have been way more loyal, like as well, underutilized, underdeveloped. If you
ridiculous, cut Steppen and 1-for-1 replace with loyal,
much better.
Huge win.
Exactly. Like he's underutilized in the ways. You got to make a promise. They make up all this thing. Like Moraine's got to see him. He's very jovial. I'll handle him. Make a plan. Make a promise. I'm so glad you came when they arrive. And then she opens the gate and leads everyone through. What's the point of Loyal? Why did you bring him along? Because they didn't even read the guiding stone because it's destroyed. So that's the other thing. Then he gets stabbed at the end, and immediately on Twitter, Rafe says, "No, he's fine. He's not dead." What the fuck?
He was stabbed. I looked for this specifically. He's stabbed with the ruby-hilted dagger.
Yes.
Not just stabbed.
Yeah. By bait and feign with the dagger.
But he's not dead. Not only is he supposed to be dead, he's supposed to be like horribly disfigured and
or something. Yeah. It's just like, what are you doing with Loyal? Like he was so underutilized, and he is from like, if you've listened to our podcast, one of our favorites, if not our favorite character.
He's a fan favorite.
Everybody loves him, and you just shoehorned him in there. And
he's also a walking paradox, like you've said before, Joe. Like he's all about like, oh, you humans are so fast, you know, like us Ogier, we sit and we talk, but he's just constantly spewing lore, you know, just exposition, go, talk, to the point where, like we said, Rand leaves the room and he's still talking like just, oh, you humans, you know, okay, fuck, we get it. I counted in that conversation in the last like 20 seconds of it, he says the word humans 3 times. We get it, you're not human, okay? Anyway, Phil, so how much do you like Loyal?
Yes, tell us, Phil. But he's not saying anything anymore.
There's no tuft ears. That is in my mind's eye. I always had like the ears of a dog with long hair, where you've got little tufts coming off dog's ear, and they flick it for a fly. Like that is the sort of discomfort in an Ogier, is like that flicking of his ears.
Well, it's also used to convey emotion and his general emotion, demeanor. And like when they're drooping, he's like, you know, sad or depressed or whatever, and you know, like that's something they could have used. I'm even putting all the physical stuff aside.
They could have made him look more like a Wookiee, and it would have been better than what we faced with that block nose.
The makeup as well. The prosthetics on his face look cheap. I don't like his nose. Like it looks weird. I don't like anything about his character design.
I feel like they made his hair sort of like stand up to make him look taller because they couldn't afford to like actually make him the size that he's supposed to be, bigger than a Trolloc for non-readers. Anyway,
missed opportunity.
Missed opportunity.
All right, guys, we have torn this cast to shreds.
We love the show. Not really.
We're still at 6.5 and 7.2, right? Okay, cool.
No, I haven't changed.
Okay. We touched on this a couple of times, but let's quickly talk about some of the costumes, effects, props, and sets and stuff. Let's focus on costumes first. Like everything, I felt it was a mixed bag. I'm going to rattle off a couple of things, and you guys tell me whether you agree or disagree. I thought some of the good costuming, I liked Rand, Nynaeve, and Matt. I like the White Cloaks. I like the Aes Sedai in general. I like the Warders. But I thought the best costume of all was Lord Agelmar. He looked awesome. That like, you know, that like the feathered like shoulder things, and then his armor and stuff as well was awesome. I think some of the costuming was awesome.
Yeah.
Some of the worst costuming, Egwene, like you said, Vil, that hood of her jacket looks like it came from a Billabong shop or, you know, like some modern surfwear store. Like, okay, if you have the rationale that there is an actual woolen fabric from olden times, which, okay, I get it, readers, we're not talking about medieval times, this is set way in the future, that's fine. But the general aesthetic and the technology available to them as a town of shepherds is to use wool and, you know, make traditional garments, and it just looks fake. It looks totally fake. She always has like a faint like tartan sort of like print on her cloak as well, which, you know, is an old thing, like people can do that, but just the combination of that with the sort of faux wool hood lining makes it look like it was picked off a
if you're going to do printing, do what would be sort of authentic, which would be block printing. So you can in that sort of era, there are means of doing things, but stick to that. That's
Aaron wins the award for the most useless buckles in the world. Like, why does he have these buckles up here? I thought he's got like, do something a bit more like, if you're not going to say outright that he is a blacksmith, or like give him an axe or a hammer, or talk about him being a blacksmith, call him blacksmith, anything like that.
Give him a freaking apron.
Just or something that is like, you know, it doesn't have to be a full-on blacksmith apron, like, you know, elbow-long gloves that he walks around with all the time, looking like some kind of maniac. But something, you know, like
evil on his shoulder.
some leather or like just these random ass buckles that look completely impractical and uncomfortable and would get in this way of any strap or anything he puts over his shoulder. Just annoyed the shit. I don't know if you can tell. It annoyed the shit out of me.
It annoyed you. We could tell. I thought Egwene's costume was one of my favorites. Sans the Hood. Her dress and her shirt.
Yes.
I love it. But it also makes me wonder, they never get changed over 8 episodes of their entire journey. They don't have other shirts. I don't know. No, like change your underpants at least. I don't know. Stink gang.
Look, the introduction to the costumes was really great. You get to see the detailed leather work on Moiraine's like shoulder pieces that she wears in that blue leather, and you can really see there's some real craft work that went into it. And slowly but surely you go further into the season, and I'm going to specifically touch on what you like, Moritz. Lord Agelmar, the feathers, fantastic. The golden armor, horribly done. It is plastic pieces that you can see flex. And
really, I'm gonna have to go look at that again then.
Me too.
Have a look at it and just pause your screen and have a look, and you can see it's not armor. It's not armor is made from metal. It's the material that armor is made from, not from soft things that an arrow can just squeeze through and it bends easily.
I was about to say, it didn't do anything to stop that spear or that thing that hits him from
exactly. You might as well, like, oh, you got to wear Dad's armor. No, don't worry. Well, I've got my own armor.
I'm going to wear the plastic one.
Okay, so seriously, if you want to see the way that armor is made, look at Lord of the Rings, the original trilogy. The amount of armor work that went in there, where they actually used metal to make armor, that's what you want to do. The White Cloak's uniform with that very weird shoulder
pauldron
metal
type
piece,
thing. Yeah.
that is also just a piece of plastic. Come on, you've got Amazon money. There's craftsmen out there. Make some fucking armor. Like, don't just seriously make some armor. There's so much battles coming in the series. You're going to start it off like this. You might as well throw Lego bricks at them and say, build yourself some armor.
Don't worry, the armor in the bigger battles later in the series are all going to be CGI, so you won't see the plastic effect.
Bad CGI. They'll still see the plastic.
How many years ago did they release the Fellowship of the Rings? Was it 20 or 30 years ago?
It was
20 years ago.
It was the
CGI of the battles is better in that movie 20 years ago than it was in episode 8. 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Look, we're about to talk about the effects. I looked after the last episode at, when you go look in the credits, there's I think 5 or 6 visual effects companies that worked on the show. And I don't know if it was sort of partitioned out to them, like you deal with the Trollocs, you deal with the human soldiers, you deal with this, you deal with magic or whatever. Or if it was like passed on, like these guys started this job, but because of COVID reasons had to shut offices or something, get someone else to like pick up the baton and like keep going with it. It's like multiple companies that worked on the visual effects. And I think that hurt them. It's very hit and miss. Like we said, when people had time to spend on something, it looked good. And they had to rush it, especially in the last couple of episodes.
When you go into a big project like this, and I'm going to bring video games into this because it's something that's close to our heart as well. Whenever a company releasing a big title is pressed to meet the date through obstacles, the game is an absolute train wreck.
Yes.
They have the benefit that they can go back and they can issue patches and fix it. And so you can pick it up later and say, it is what it should be. You don't have that benefit with a TV show. It's out there, the medium, it's made, it's shot. They should have said,
tell George Lucas that.
Yeah, wait 6 months.
Yes, they should have.
Pause it for 6 months.
Absolutely agree.
And a prime example of people doing this with TV right now is the last James Bond movie. Whether you liked it or not, it was stalled and it was stalled and it was stalled and it was stalled and it was COVID and they stalled and then they went back and reshot what they wanted to reshoot to make it what it is now, in my opinion, fantastic. That's what should have been done. Again, they were not shy on funds. They had the money.
To borrow a phrase from the gaming industry, it just needed more time in the oven. You know, like that's what people often say about video games that are rushed. I mean, look at Cyberpunk and some of the bigger titles that have a lot of eyeballs on them and have the pressure to release. They've even postponed that. So there's precedent, you know, even for that specific game, there were delays. And then eventually they just caved under probably shareholder pressure. I mean, we can't underrepresent the pressure that the showrunners would have had from Amazon to get this thing out. You know, they don't care about the quality really, as long as it's getting eyeballs, which it did. I mean, all the stats say that it was like the biggest opening week of any show on Amazon's history or whatever it was. But I mean, the people were watching the show. So the guys up in the bloody penthouse offices, they're laughing. It's all us readers down here and us people that are passionate about the material that are like, fuck guys, could you just have delayed by 6 months and given us the thing that we know this story, you know, deserves.
We've waited 30 years. We can wait 30 years and 6 months. Like, it's totally fine.
Yes, exactly. So speaking of the effects, what did you guys think of the channeling effects? Now, before we get into the whole, they didn't uniquely identify each type of, you know, thread that would separate, you know, fire.
Yeah, let's not get sidetracked. We've dealt with that in the past.
Did you guys like it at all? Is there any changes or anything you would have liked to see differently? Because I have a single thought on that topic specifically.
Channeling is a very powerful thing, and it's they could have, especially the battle where the Dragon Sworn try and save Logan. The green and the red Ajah, they throwing little cracker bombs at their feet. Seriously?
Yeah.
Like, you've got the power to rip them to pieces. Moiraine showed us how she ripped the Trolloc apart in half in the first episode. Why do they have so many warders, so many Aes Sedai, and they get shot with arrows? Come on, woman, you can channel. You shouldn't be shot with arrows, especially if you can see it coming.
Just think of maybe a little bit more creative ways of using the power, like pull over some of the trees, or, you know, like cause a dust storm so the guys can't see it, so they're blinded, you know, like this, or pull in some weather effects, you know, like this, mix it up a little bit. But
Hold
I know that in the
with
past,
air.
yes,
how many times do they get wrapped in air in the books? Yeah,
I mean, in that scene, they caught a bunch of arrows in the air individually. Yep. You know, so people are even bigger targets, so easier to catch, right? Anyway, yes. I have in the past defended some of those battle scenes, and I don't mind the sort of like the trail along the ground and then the exploding earth, if it was part of a wider repertoire. But that's all they did, and to middling effect, you know, and like the fact that people got that close to the waters and the waters had that harder time. Again, I feel like the water should have been shown to be head and shoulders, but like they should not have even been bothered by these guys. This is actually something I have an issue with in a lot of media. Why I liked, this is going to be a deep cut, why I like the Bourne Identity, the original Bourne Identity so much. Jason Bourne dominates everybody easily. You know, like I like this idea of a total badass, and movies and media for as long as I can remember, feel this need to show, no, it's actually kind of hard for these guys, you know, like, no, that it's actually a bit of a struggle to sort of make it more, I don't know, believable or something. Show me the guy that is just so on top of these people that it's not even a thing, you know, have land dancing between the dragon swarm, just flowing from form to form, slicing people in half and just dominating instead of like shouting and showing all this emotion and like struggling to save. You know, it's just too hard. Anyway, special effects, back to that.
Yeah, special effects. The channeling, I don't mind it. But like I say, underutilized. There could have been, there's no grand scale. About that battle in the forest against the Shadow Spawn, how many times in an episode they say, army, 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 Logain's army, and then like 50 guys show up? That's not an army. That's
and
like,
look,
and they still get their asses
hire,
handed to them.
You don't have to go hire 5,000 guys. Just stop using the word army.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, that's the cheap solution. Like just
the shadow and the Shadow Sworn, the Dragon Sworn are here.
Yeah,
Logain's men, Logain's followers, something, but they keep pushing it at you that it's an army. Maybe that was from, you know, previous, they were going to have an army, but because of COVID and cuts and budget and whatever, they had to get rid of the army or something. And it's a vestigial word lying around there. So I don't know, could be. But again, no, I mean, not an army.
That movie I just referenced, Lord of the Rings, was shot 20 years ago. The CGI put an army of 10,000 in there. Surely it could have been done again. Yeah. Anyway, I'll rest it. I'll rest it there.
The one thing that I
actually
think
just getting angry now.
Billy's score's dropping.
Still at a 7.2. The one thing that I think would have helped a little bit with channeling, from my point of view, is if they represented the channeling in a way that was representative of what maybe the character that you are with in that scene would see. So for non-channelers, don't show the power. When Moiraine, in that first fight against the Trollocs, when Nynaeve and Egwene look up and they see Moiraine laying waste to these guys, don't show anything. Because yes, they're both channelers, but they don't know yet, and they haven't like truly, like, I mean, even in the books at this point, they can't see the weaves or anything yet, because they haven't, I don't think Egwene is actually channeled yet, and Nynaeve is a wilder and has block and all that stuff. So there are so many scenes where they didn't have to do the whole steamy weave thing. Even Logain, you didn't have to show it. Now I know why they showed it, so that they could show the taint on it or the corruption. You know, like, okay, cool, you've got a practical reason to do that there, but I still feel like there's other ways. Maybe when you're in Logain's point of view, looking at the king, show some stuff, and then when the king's looking at him, show nothing. So that at other times,
saved on CGI budget as well.
Saved on CGI budget. Other times when people are observing Aes Sedai doing channeling, that's not necessarily battle or anything like that, but like whether it's like heating the hot tub or something, or like or whatever the sort of mundane channeling tasks are. Don't show anything, and it's like, oh, this person can do magic. I wonder how this magic works. I don't know. Is it telekinesis? Is it, do they just channel fire? That sort of thing, I think, would have added intrigue. And then when Egwene and Nynaeve do learn about it, and Moiraine has the conversation, I think one of the best scenes in the show is when Moiraine actually talks to Egwene in the forest about what the one power is and how she can channel, and how it's the same for everyone across the world, all that stuff. The power, it's the one power, and it consists of 5 flows, and then like channel 5 flows right there, different colors, and they are these different things, and you weave them together to make a weave, and then you place that weave on something, or you direct it at something, and something happens. Demonstrate it to Egwene. Again, she's the cipher. You're learning because she's learning, and then Bob's your uncle. Now Aes Sedai can channel without having to show the stuff coming from everything and all this like big buildup and like all the theatrical flair to it. Aes Sedai can now just channel willy-nilly, and what's happening, but they don't have to like go through the effort of making it make sense visually. I don't know. That's what I would have done. There's
lots of inconsistencies in the power levels as well. Like, like I say, it's not explained. There's no like set of rules. Like this is like you say, like these are the flows. This is how you do it. Every woman's got different strength and blah 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 blah. Like Nynaeve at the end of that battle with the army. Super Saiyan, super healing everybody in the room. It's just a spectacle. That's all it is. Yes. They did it for visual effects, but it kind of detracts from everything else that's come before it. And then later on, like Nynaeve can do that, but all these trained Aes Sedai can't. They make the ground explode. Make leaves pop up under Dragonsworn's feet. It's like
not to mention that Logain can see everything Nynaeve's doing.
Exactly. It's like, what's going on? I know it's magic, but you got to set up rules for the magic. This is the system, and this is how it works. Yes. But they just throw it all out the window. Like at the end as well, episode 8, that Nynaeve and everybody linked together.
That's the most egregious breaking of that rule. I mean, they even make a point of saying how what is Agelmar's sister's name? Lady Amathera, or is that the Bannock from
That's the Bannock. Yes, her.
Whatever her name is. They make a point of talking about how she's not really strong enough to like reach full sisterhood and stuff. So, they're already diminishing her skills. Now she's leading a circle. Okay, Egwene and Nynaeve, we've been led to believe, are very, very powerful. I like how they actually name drop Egwene, like, Lan asks Moiraine at one point, is Logain as strong as Egwene? And Moiraine says, I don't think so, I don't know. Setting up Egwene as also an extremely powerful channeler. But for Agelmar's sister to lead the circle and to just decimate an army of thousands of Trollocs. Now, what are they going to do in the future with other battles where there's Aes Sedai around? Why aren't you just making another circle and decimating this army as well? Like, exactly. You've now set the precedent. Power levels, a big problem.
And would have been so much better in that whole battle right over there, when the Shannara Lancers just decimated the Trollocs, because they are as badass as they are, and they've always protected Blight from moving forward. That is exactly what should have happened.
Yes. While we're talking about Tywin's Gap, right? So Eldara, the family, been there for years. I'm veering off our topic, so rein me in, Joe. Start the stopwatch. 2 minutes max. In Tywin's Gap, they've got a whole fort built there, right? In this pass that is the only way that you can get from that section into the plains in front of Eldara, which are quite smartly cleared so that you can attack them with range and all that stuff. Very cool.
Indeed.
Great. Love that. Why do you not have a final sort of kill switch failsafe that collapses the rocks of the mountains into the gap, and then nothing's getting through? Sorry.
Yeah.
Look, why does that not exist? You've been there for 1,000 years. I thought of that in, okay, let's be generous, since the show aired till now, 2 months.
Yeah. Firstly, the two mountains on the side of the gap look like
very
hills
climbable.
that you could very easily just walk
traversed.
Yes. To traverse them, you can go like Trollocs are animals. Animals climb mountains. I've seen
some of them are goats.
Some of them are goat-like.
Some of them are goats, and goats walk on the side of mountains.
Yeah.
So no, you failed. You failed horribly. There's just like it's like when a kid draws a mountain range. There's mountains, and there's a wall, and it's a big wall, but it's. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm going to pause. Yeah. Same.
Let's just move. It's just way gates.
Quickly before we get into some other stuff, sets. Is there any that stood out to you as like a particularly good or bad set, Willie?
No, this is one thing that I picked up on a couple of scenes where they use the same location multiple times from different angles. And you pick up a certain tree. Perrin and Gawain with the Tinkers, Perrin and Gawain running from the wolves towards the Tinkers. It's like they ran into this area and then running the opposite direction out of it. And you're like, but you're still in the same area. Matt and Rand in the mountains coming from Shadow Logoth. There's all these great locations that they scouted. And then they couldn't be fucked moving on just a little bit further. Now, let's just do it all here and do it from different angles. No one will know. Yes,
we know.
I saw it.
We noticed. Well, I mean, after that Perrin and Egwene thing that you said to us in a previous video, when I watched it now, I was looking out for that, and I'm trying to find ways to justify it. But the closest I can come is to the wolves actually physically turning them around and taking them back to where they came from, because they are being herded. But I mean, is that necessary? No, it's just because you had this location you thought looked cool and you wanted to shoot there a little bit longer.
It's
the scene of Matt. The scene of Matt and Rand coming up the mountain from Shadow Logoth, I thought was awesome. That looked really cool. There's a couple of these like wide angle shots. The ladies walking to Egwene's ceremony in the Two Rivers, you know, like when they're walking in the mountains, the Sound of Music scene that we referenced before, Joe. That looks amazing. Even the scene of like Matt and Rand standing on that hill looking at Tar Valon with Dragon Mount in the background, that's really cool. So some of those like really big wide angle shots are very cool. There's another cool one where they're busy like showing how they travel, and they switch between these cool wide angle shots of them riding through a desert, and it looks like an old like dilapidated bridge. So this might have been like a big lake or a sea or something before the breaking, and now there's this like broken bridge that look cool. But then the rest of the chase, it's like all just shaky close-ups of horses' legs moving, and that's kind of cheap. But yeah, the big outdoor areas, I think for the most part looked cool. It's just when they reuse them, like you said, that it becomes too obvious.
I think it's telling that no sets jump out to us like, oh, the set of everything was fine. Well, the interior sets were fine.
Like, I think the stuff at Eamon's Field was cool. I think that was by far the best.
That town that they built an actual town.
I'll tell you what I hated.
Yeah, then their money was all spent and they couldn't do anything further than that.
Spent it all on episode one.
Because from there, I don't like the premise that there's stuff that you can still see after the breaking.
Yeah, it's been 3,000
years has passed. A skyscraper does not stand for 3,000 years to be overgrown by plants.
Unless it was built by Aes Sedai in the Age of Legends.
Now, then it would be buried by the breaking.
Yes. Okay.
The Kuhn-Dahl's got to get dug out under the ground.
Yeah. They only showed us one city, and there was more than one city in the Age.
That's the only city that survived for 3,000 years. That's the one building. That's the only one.
It was only magnitude 8 earthquakes there. No volcanoes.
Only.
So
the sets
but again, that bridges, that the broken bridges that you just referenced in where they're traveling through the landscape. It's like, I love it. I love the giving that premise there, but no, it's not possible. It's just
but it
lots
looks
of stuff
cool.
isn't.
Maybe that was just a bridge from like 200 years ago. So let's play it that. Yeah,
but it looked good.
Yeah, for a visual medium, I understand why they did all this. Yeah.
What I did not like was generally the interior of the White Tower.
I can agree.
The conversations that they had in the hallways were all shot in the same hallway,
in the same location,
in like a T-junction. So even though the individual statues and like the fine scroll work and the lattice work and that sort of stuff is all well done, the sense of scale is completely missing. It looks like a set because it's all these like short angles. You can't see down a long hallway, CGI a hallway or something, you know, like just make it look like this place is big. And, you know, like when Nynaeve leaves her water room and she's just sort of like strolling, what is she doing? Is she just strolling? Does she not want to like find her friends or find something? Go do, what is her imperative here? Just to look at the statues in the hallway right outside the room, and then, you know, the room, the place is small. Show the tower gardens or something. You know, like just expand it a little bit. The hall of the tower itself is very austere. You know, like that's fine as well, I guess. But then Moiraine's room also just like barren. And I'm going to throw them a bone and say it's to show that she's not spending any time there. She's got no intention of being there. But okay, so the room looks awful. I mean, it looks like a fucking execution chamber or something with a chair in it. And then it's got this terrain.
There's no chair. There's only a bed. A bed.
There's a chair there as well. There's a chair. Lan comes in at one stage and he kneels next to her and he holds her hand and she's sitting in the chair.
Yes, she did have a chair. She got that later.
I liked some of these sort of the balcony areas where Moraine's standing up at the top and looking over Tarvalon, and there's no handrail or anything. It's sort of like a cool, interesting look, and that was cool. But it was just so samey everywhere. And also weirdly, like no Aes Sedai symbols, you know, like there's not a single Aes Sedai symbol anywhere.
No
Aes Sedai symbols exist in the show. I mean, it's on the seal. It's appearing in water filled with Trolloc blood and in random ass animal carcasses in the forest. But not in the actual White Tower. Not a single Aes Sedai symbol. It was weird, but non-readers wouldn't pick up on that. Anyway, any other sets? What do you guys think of the Ways? That was another one I was like,
other ways are fine.
Ways could have been less the nether, the underworld, and could have been more a really dark place with just bridges that are.
But show what the bridges used to look like. Like make a proper handrail. When they grew those things, the bridges weren't these jagged stalagmites. You know, like that's not what the bridges look like. How did they turn into that's not, you're trying to tell me this used to be this verdant green thing, but built on what looks like the insides of a volcano. You know, like it's just them trying to like make it look menacing.
The irony is the books give them the exact dimensions of the bridges, how many spans wide, how thick they are, how they arch from island to island. I mean, you just said, okay, cool. What is a span? Mr. Google, what is a span? We figured this crap out.
we figured it out. If we can, anyone can. Also, just like the lightning showing flashes of it and stuff. Again, this is like the land thing, right? Like, okay, nobody wants to look at a path with just solid black behind the characters all the time. Okay, but get creative and like turn up the sort of the muting on the voices. Have light behave differently. Make the people comment on it feels like the blackness is just pushing in on me. Pull the camera out and show their feeble little light on this path that stretches in front of them with no handrails in some cases, right? Show them come up to a thing where there's no gap, or there's a gap in the path and they have to turn around, and that's a big problem because fuck, now how are we going to get to, you know, the waygate that we're going to? Just take the thing that you think right off the bat is going to be boring, but turn it on its head. Turn that, you know, problem into a boon, you know, turn it into the thing that makes it menacing. I don't know. I think there was another missed opportunity. And then my last gripe about the Ways.
I doubt it.
The Waygates.
About the Ways. Okay.
Okay. I'm not even talking about the Waygates. We'll get to that. But when they are traveling through the Ways and they, you know, now they've killed a Trolloc, someone channeled, Mush and Shin is coming. Lan goes, we're not going to make it to our Waygate. How close is the Waygate to Faldara? Then when they go to Faldara, Moraine and Rand walk to the Eye of the World in a morning.
It's one day's walk.
What Waygate were they going to?
The one at the Eye of the World. There's one right there. They were just going to come out and go, whoop, we're here. Magic time. Kill Beelzemon. Off we go.
I watched that episode looking for it to see, is there at least like, show me there's something there. But it just, to me, it seemed like crazy that they make this big deal like, oh no, we can't get to our Waygate. We'll have to go to Faldara, which is right there. So not a great problem.
I'm also confused because when the gate closes and they can't, like Matt's left behind right in the beginning. And then they say, open it up again. Let's get Matt. And Loyal's like, no, you can't use the one power in here. But they did to get out. How were they planning on getting out at the other end?
No, you can use the one power, but it draws Mushinshin. So the thinking is that when you open the gate on the other side, at least you're at the gate that you want to exit through, so you can just go.
This is, I cannot anymore. They ruined the ways by ruining the way gates and the mechanism through which it works. It should not require the power. It should just require putting a leaf in place.
But look, there was a cut scene.
Stones.
There was a cut scene of Peyton Fane coming out of the Waygate in Faldara, holding the leaf, the trefoil leaf. Trefoil, how do you pronounce it? Yeah, he's holding that leaf. He's got a Angreal. He's got a key. So keys exist.
What I think happened is they needed to find a way to cut Matt from the team. Yeah. And just being able to go in and out of the Waygate with a leaf meant that there's no like timing, like, oh no, it's closing and we can't open it again. There's none of that. You know, so Matt has to stay behind. If they were just using the leaves, the Waygate would be open until Matt came inside, and then they would close it. You know, so I think their hand was forced. I don't know if I'm throwing them a bone here, but
that does make sense, Moritz. That does make sense, yeah.
But it's still really, it's a bitter pill to swallow. I know.
It's a patch.
Very, very
hated it.
The look of it, it looks hideous.
That's the point.
When I prayed in the beginning, I was like, please, can that just be a portal stone? I can accept that as a portal stone. Yeah. Let it just, please do not let that be the ways. I can forgive a lot of things, but this is Ogier grown. Yeah. It's just, you put so much emphasis on our beautiful.
It's not even special looking. Yeah. It looks like just blockwork that anyone could have just stacked there. Yeah. Anyway, let's move along. Okay.
Are we going to get to a point where we're going to talk about things that we liked? Because this video is becoming a real downer.
It's a post-mortem, remember?
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're not supposed to have fun during autopsies. Gotcha.
Well, in each of these sections, I mean, there are aspects that we are liking. We are maybe harping on the stuff that we don't like because it's more fun. I don't know, maybe I was going to say it's assumed that we like the stuff because we are readers of it. But I mean, that's kind of why I started the show with what do you think of the series in general and the whole season, and what is your score? Because I mean, obviously there are many aspects of it that we do like, but I think it is carried very much by our love of the books. Yeah, and us wanting it to be good. We'll talk a bit about our enthusiasm for season 2 and what we think might happen there at the end of this. Maybe we are, because we are so passionate, hammering the things we don't like a bit harder than maybe an average critic would. But you know, we have passion, and it shows. The music. Vinny, I know you listened to the soundtrack before the show even came out, and you were sort of
all 3 of them.
You were in two minds about it a little bit, and then when you watched the show, did that change anything when you had a bit more context for it? Like some of
a good score to a show only really becomes as good as it is when you can emotionally link it to events. So if I listen to the soundtrack or the score for, I'm going to pick a random one, Interstellar, I can connect with what scene this is in. There's stuff that's really thought out deeply, like for instance, when they are on that first planet where
we're talking Interstellar now.
So many years, Interstellar. Yes. But I'm drawing reference to it because there's a 1.25 seconds tick, tick, and that's built in because every time that thing ticks, it's one. It is
a year, I think.
I think 1 year on planet Earth that's ticking over, or something. There's a rhythm built into the real time, and it's all purposefully done. The song Al Naitu is my favorite piece of music off the soundtrack. And it's because I really enjoy how it was used. The introduction of Swan, it is about the flame of Tarvalon. And if you look at the translated words, because all the 3 or 4 songs that is on the entire music, there's 3 albums to the soundtrack.
Really?
There's only 3 songs that's sung, and all of them are written in the old tongue, which is quite difficult to also. It's kind of like, okay, cool, then you get the translations of it and all of that, and that ties in great for me. I really love it. And then a lot of it falls really flat. It's not tied into great emotion for me. It doesn't evoke goosebumps. It doesn't evoke that feeling for me. So I can listen, and I often do while I sit and work. I listen to music scores, like, because it gets me amped. Gladiator.
It takes you back there.
Takes you. Inception. There's. I can go through names of movies and you go like, man, Dune, Tron. It's all of these things. I can sit and listen, and while I'm doing my monotonous processing of paperwork, I'm reliving a movie in my head. I'm not reliving 100%. The Wheel of Time when I listen to it at work now, unless I listen to the one single song that stands out, or the one track I'll night to.
And I mean, that's listening to the music. That's listening to the music like in isolation. So how do you feel about the music as it's utilized in the show? Like when you're watching the show, it's not doing anything for you.
Not
all right, so that's when it falls flat.
It's even now falls flat. Like right now, there's one song, Al Naitu. I think that put Lorne Balfour has put all the energy into that. And the rest of it is kind of like what's going to accompany this, not what's going to evoke emotion, what's going to build on what you're trying to. It's as if it was written separate from the storyline. There wasn't a discussion that said, okay, we're going to have a discussion. We want you to write something to introduce this most powerful woman, and I want you to bring in the old tongue into it. There was a discussion there, and you can feel it in that song. There's power. There's it evokes emotion. I listen to the song and I get goosebumps. I'm like, damn, this is good. But for so many other parts, it doesn't, like, okay, cool, they're going to channel now because there's music that brings this in. If you watch Batman, you know when Batman's about to kick ass because the music in the background, the score tells you, Batman's going to settle a score right now. That Gotham music is pumped up. And it's the same with any franchise that play on music in a big way. Batman is a very big one. What was the Batman Forever has got in the entire movie 58 seconds of silence with no music. 58 seconds.
Yeah.
Every single piece of that music, if you listen to it today, and this is a movie that's also well over the 20 years old, you go like, yeah, this is where the Penguin's ass gets kicked right now. And that was the silliest of Batmans ever.
Yeah, look, the music couldn't save it.
It's just the silliest of Batmans. But it's a missed opportunity because Game of Thrones and the music that goes hand in hand with Game of Thrones is something that I sit and listen to as well. Because when I listen to it, I'm like, whoa, this is such a big battle. Even though Game of Thrones ended as horribly as it did. The music,
despite its ending, it's still good music.
Yeah, it's in spite of it. It's like, right, they are in the bay now and they are throwing that bombs over the wall in green flames. Because every single bit of music, you know exactly what it is. Oh, right, we in the north now, we're at the wall because the music tells you this is where you're at. And they didn't achieve this at all in the season.
Joe?
That intro music is boring as balls. I skip that intro every single time. I never sit through it. I watched it once on my rewatch on episode 2 when they have it for the first time. It's and then it never builds. It never goes anywhere. It comes up a little bit and then it goes down again and then the show starts. I'm like, why did I sit through that?
The music from the teaser.
Where is that?
Where is
that
music from the teaser?
My question exactly.
That gave me goosebumps when the teaser came out. Like people were saying that's boring, and I thought, no, that's by far the best.
Excellent.
Excellent. I think what I've landed on as my single biggest gripe with the entire season is the music that they play during the previously on Wheel of Time. It's this electric guitar, like just boring ass
music,
generic rock riff,
yeah,
which is like, okay, it seems completely anachronistic. It is not suitable at all, and that's how you start every episode. Like, what? No. It kills me. I can hear it in my head now, and it is freaking me out.
I can too.
If you go watch it again, it is just at the very least, I know this is not set in the past. I know that.
Yes.
People are coming into the show, non-readers and readers alike, with certain pathways in their brain already programmed.
Yeah.
It's in the future. I get it. Technology, music, everything. It's all old-timey. You know? Tom not playing a harp anymore, now playing a guitar. Totally fine.
Yeah.
Totally fine. Guitars are old. String instruments exist for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
Just don't use distorted electrical instruments in your show set in this milieu, even if it's not the actual time frame that we are associating. It's just jarring. And that's what I feel like everyone before the show came out was sort of like, oh God, is this going to be another Shannara Chronicles? Is this going to be another Legend of the Truth? What is sort of truth? Legend of the Seeker, like level fuck around. And this is what gets it to that level for me. This like completely jarring music. Who are they trying to appeal to? It just doesn't fit with the whole vibe of the show. It's not dramatic at all. It's again this sort of like manufactured tension. They're like, okay, amping you up now. This is all the stuff that happened, but in a completely plastic and fake way. And it just kills my mood every time an episode starts. It just gets you off to the
only song the only piece of music that I've ever sung while I'm doing the dishes or anything is Tom's song from the tavern. I'm considering getting my ukulele down and trying to figure it out and sing along. Like I'm fully into it, but that's the only piece of music that sticks out to me.
Yeah.
No, there's another one.
El Nito.
Sing for Manitharan.
Oh shit, forgot about that. And that's fine as well. It's a bit short.
Really, a little short song.
There's another verse of it somewhere.
There is a second verse to it. You can get it on YouTube. It is that's a great piece of music that links to a bit of history that actually links to the lore of the book series. Like, great, love it. They used music to bring something in. You could use music a lot better in all of this. It's just, I think they picked the wrong person to do the music. I think they should have.
But I mean, evidence would suggest from this conversation that we're all in agreement. Yeah. They had someone else at first, I think, and they pulled out eventually. So maybe we had a different composer for the teaser. Certainly does not come from the same mind.
All right.
I would have.
Yes. Billy's going to go into the music.
I can sit on this topic for too long. We can move on.
We know.
Yeah. You should make a solo video just to talk about the music. Deep dive.
Okay, so let's try, and when I say quick hits, let's do quick hits. Magic items. Okay, we've spoken about the Waygates. We don't have to cover those again. What did you think of Rand's male Sa'angreal, when Moraine explains that 1,000 Aes Sedai poured their power into it. That's obviously different. Do you think that adds anything to it, takes away from it for non-readers?
I kind of was taken aback by that.
The
like,
flows green.
Did that mean that all those male Aes Sedai were powerless afterwards, or did it just mean that they combined?
It's sort of blurring the lines
between
the actual Eye of the World from the book and the Sa'angreal. The Eye of the World, they poured themselves and then died. It put themselves into the actual eye.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. But what I did notice was that's the little statue that Moraine puts in on episode 1, first scene. That's the one she's wrapping up right at the beginning. So she knew that the Dragon Reborn was a man, because she prepared a male.
Big
plot
hole.
Well, maybe she has another one that they didn't show her wrapped.
Oh, okay.
Maybe her suspenders are the female, the female Sa'angreal.
Yeah, I don't know.
What did you guys think of the seal?
I hate it.
Well, change things around.
Listen,
Billy, go for it.
Can you explain to me how Bail Doman has got that seal hidden in his cabin?
You're assuming too much. You're assuming too much.
No, look, I think
there's 7 of these in the world.
Not in the show.
You have a point, Vil. You have a point. I had the same thought. What are the implications of making these seals this thing? First of all, are all the seals the same thing? I mean, they don't have to be. In the books, they are. In the show, maybe they're not. Maybe they're like bloody Horcruxes from Harry Potter or something. Yeah. But, what are the implications of having these big seals? Because now they're going to have to be in places of significance. So where are you going to put them? Because in the books, they turn up all over the place. Like you said, Bail Doman has one on his ship. Like spoiler for Great Hunt. There are implications to now having them, because I mean, the eye, obviously, as the show has portrayed it, is also quite a sacred and very special place. Where are the other seals? Where could they even possibly be?
Are there other seals?
Well, they didn't say the seal is weakening.
I guess spoiler for the books, the seals in general.
Did they say plural seals in the TV show?
What Moraine says is that after they look at this piece of Quandiar and Lan goes, I thought it could be broken. Moraine's like, yes, I can't. And I fear this was not the last battle. I fear it was the first. Leads me to extrapolate via, book knowledge that there are going to be other seals. Don't know. Anyway, it was interesting.
I think that it makes more sense to have it as an actual seal. Like the Eye of the World is the Dark One's prison, and it is sealed with this giant seal. Whereas in the books, you got like 7 of these little discs that are in people's pockets and cupboards. Those are the seals on the Dark One's
abstract
prison.
For people to
but they're not on the prison. They're floating around the world. Like it's kind of weird.
No, I'm gonna walk it back.
All right.
Trust the viewers. Don't treat people like idiots. Like there are a lot of idiots out there, but I mean, even idiots can follow fantasy storylines and plots and stuff. Like I don't like the hand-holding aspect of what that implies. I'd like to think that people could understand that these magical items are scarce and around the world, and if they are all broken, they're made of this unbreakable thing, but they're breaking, and that means the Dark One's coming out. We understood that from the books. Millions of other people have. Viewers can do the same. Anyway, let's move on. The dagger, ruby hilted dagger, obviously had an effect on Matt. But then is used on Loyal to no effect. Has it been nerfed?
I think that his healing of the dagger, the connection to the dagger as well, is very rushed. Like Moraine sees it, oh crap, let's heal you of it. So it doesn't seem like as big as a threat, or like
and she puts it in the dagger, so it's like, ooh, double bad, right?
Yeah, maybe it came from out of the dagger originally. I don't know. There's not enough explanation about what's happening with the dagger. Maybe it'll come later.
What do you think about where the
dagger looks badass?
It looks amazing. 100%. Yes. It looks awesome. It looks creepy and old, and
ruby in the hilt. It's got the curved blade, sort of a snake-like blade. Like you expect it to hiss. It's got evil vibes all over it.
For sure.
And the way that Matt holds it when he points out that fade.
Yeah, that's the image I had in my mind right now when you were describing.
Just brilliant.
Barney, we'll miss you. The Horn of Valir, just in Feldora, under Agelmar's chair.
In a box, we don't even see it.
That it was
not in the Eye of the World.
Surely only done so that Fane can now have it. because it would actually be better, take Fane out of the story, if the dagger was actually, the horn is under the seal at the Eye of the World. In the books,
like it is, yeah.
They find the horn and the dragon banner at the eye. Find them here as well, because that scratches that same sort of video game reward system of like, oh, I've just beat a boss. Here's a loot drop. Like I just defeated Belzebub. Here's the Horn of Valir and the flag. Yeah. Cool. Level up, and off you go. But it just completely cheapens the horn. That Agumar doesn't say to Ingtar and Uno, guys, go get your pitchforks or your axes and stuff. Move my chair, chop up the stone blocks, and he's just like, you know what to do, implying that other Shinnarans know about the Horn of Valir, which means multiple people know where the Horn of Valir is.
Yeah.
And yet there's this, again, projecting book reading knowledge, this knowledge out there in the world that the Horn of Valir is, people need to go find it, and there's all the...
And they are dark friends inside Valdara. He says it.
Yes.
They are dark friends within our walls.
Yeah. So, missed opportunity. Let's see what they do with the horn. God.
Yeah.
I fear for it. All right, guys, we're in the final stretch here.
Okay? Are we?
So, yes. Unless there's more stuff that you want to add after I'm done.
We haven't touched on anything on my list, but continue.
Okay. I wanted to take a bit of time to talk about the cold opens. I originally thought that maybe we could rank them. That's going to take too much time, but let's quickly, again, keyword, quickly discuss each one. Cold open from episode 1. We start obviously with Moraine first preparing, and the one that everyone is assuming or talks about as the cold open is Leandrin and the other women, the other Reds chasing down the male channeler. Like it, didn't like it. I think we've made it pretty clear. None of us liked it. Didn't add anything.
1 out of 10.
Move on.
Episode 2, White Cloaks, Aemon Volder.
Like it. 9 out of 10.
Cranked it up. Hey?
Yeah, it's up there. I liked it. It's menacing.
No,
I don't like it. I don't like it as much now as I did the first time I saw it, but I still like it quite a lot. And especially the portrayal of Velda was primo. Episode 3, Nynaeve versus Trolloc.
7 out of 10. It's good. It's like some chick from a farm knows how to kill a Trolloc. Like, wow.
It suffers from this is Nynaeve. She's fierce, remember?
Of course.
It does a thing that I also hate, which is the apart from like making badasses look human by letting them struggle in battle, when someone is running from something and they show shots of that thing being really close and then other shots of them being really far. There's a section where Nynaeve is running through the first, running through the forest looks weird. The set is kind of weird. And then it cuts to another scene where it shows her sort of like from the side and she's running through the trees and stuff where it looks normal again. And they've got a Trolloc following it. It's pretty close behind her. It's not that far away at all. I get it. You're trying to make her scared. It's right behind her. Then she gets to the mouth of that cave and she stops and she leans against it and she looks back and then she goes inside. Are you checking to see if the Trolloc is still following you? Because you know it is. Also,
it's right there.
Right fucking there. Do not stop.
Yeah.
So it's just like a weird like time.
Yeah. But that's like a horror movie suspense trope thing. Yeah. That's
I guess they get away with it because other people do as well, but not in this house.
Yeah. We expect more, Rafe.
And then also, how do you explain the Trolloc blood making the Aes Sedai symbol? I fear a lot of the same things. Did you ever watch Heroes?
Yes.
Remember that weird symbol that looked like an S with lines through it or something, like appearing in like broken glass on the ground or like birds flying, like in all these, and they never explain why that happens or what that does. It's a thing that happened. Very annoying. I don't like it. You're not putting Aes Sedai symbols in the White Tower, but you're finding these messed up ways to just insert it into the world. Didn't like that. So yeah, Joe, Nynaeve's badass, and I mean, she got real lucky that spear didn't get her, right? Because I mean, Trolloc goes to town on that pool.
I do want to clarify one thing. I'm not just saying that she couldn't have handled it because she's a woman. I don't think any one of those Rand or Perrin or any of them, although Perrin did kind of handle it because he is a giant dude. But like, I think if Rand had been attacked and dragged off, like I wouldn't have expected him to be able to kill a Trolloc as well, like coming out of the water. It was a bit overboard.
Yeah. Okay, so episode 4, Logain.
Liked it. I liked it. Not spectacular, but it was good. I liked the introduction, and we get some more information, and I dig it. Another 8.
Cool.
I like this healing. The king is trying to build an alliance, and then the king, who had this whole army that fought for him in this whole big city, is reduced down to 50 raggedy, unarmored people running over the hills, and then anyway, carry on.
Also, you get to see that Logain is not what you've been led to believe he is. Well, you weren't really led to believe anything about him yet because you don't know him, but he heals him and he says, I want to bind the world. Like it's not as bad. Male channelers are maybe not as bad as people put them out to be. No.
Could this be the dragon? Yeah.
Could it be?
Also the introduction of the madness.
But again, like that, you should have introduced him as in a battle in episode 1's cold open. As
but
a
then
male
their
channeler.
clever little name for episode 4 wouldn't have worked, Joe. The Dragon Reborn. The old bait and switch. They start the episode off like, oh, let's Logain the Dragon Reborn, and then at the end, oh no, it's 90 of the Dragon Reborn. Lame. Episode 5.
Neither.
Speaking of lame, the cold open of episode 5 is the funeral for the Dragon Sworn and the Aes Sedai, or Karenni. Garbage. Doesn't add anything.
Yeah, like nothing. Why?
Missed opportunity.
When you bury someone, you dig a hole, a deep hole, and then you put the body in so you can put soil
6 feet under.
Yeah.
Okay. Benefit of the doubt. The waters didn't feel like digging too deep. There was more emphasis on the positioning in the
channel is there.
Remember, you're not allowed to scrub pots with your 1 power. It's not the right.
They're full sisters. They can do it.
Like there's rules don't apply in this series with them.
Unacceptable.
It's just it was stupid.
Yeah.
Also stupid that you just do a 1 foot deep hole to chuck them in and chuck a blanket on them and like, okay, we've done our job. Wolves can do the rest now.
Did anyone else feel like when Stepan is carrying Karenni that she was suspended by wires?
No, I didn't care. I just wanted to see
his back at all.
Go watch the
guys have
episode
a look.
5 cold open, Joe.
Yeah,
I think she's
I don't
like
want to go watch
suspended
episode
by
5 again. Please don't make me.
Okay, episode 6. Swan's intro.
Love the cold open.
As a little girl.
Love it.
Like
amazing.
Loved it.
This is so typical of the show, right? Hit and miss. Some of it is so good, and then some of it is just like gobsmackingly bad. Episode 7.
10 out of 10. 10 out of 10.
Is that Blood and Snow?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Look,
100 out of 10.
Something we haven't touched on is the fight choreography.
That's what I want to touch on.
And it is amazing in this scene. She blows every other water and every other fight in the show out of the water, right? Like there's no contest. But it is so cool how she employs the spears, and it is. I can't get enough of it. I'll watch that over and over and over again.
Loved it. Agreed.
That is what I want to see.
100 out of 10
is what I want to see. The casting, first of all, was fantastic. Like absolute. Then the fight, just portraying a maiden of the spear, and there's only one thing. She didn't veil herself when she started killing again.
I also had a problem with that.
Only thing.
She was veiled, and then she took her veil off when she thought she was about to have a baby, and then she set apart. So could she have pulled up her veil? Sure. She's maybe struggling to breathe. She's going through contractions. Breathing is a big part of having, going through labor. Maybe putting on a veil is not the best idea. I let that one slide eventually. The thing that I don't like about that scene is not actually part of the cold open. It's later when they flash back to Tam finding her and helping her. It's just like Tam's weird face Like, he looks
That
weird.
de-aging tech.
They tried to de-age him and it just looks weird. And
A lot of people said it looks like Nicolas Cage.
He doesn't even look like that actor.
They could have just casted someone else.
They did Tam
that
dirty.
looked.
No, they need to make the connection. You need to know that that's Tam.
Viewers are dumb, remember?
That the sword with the heron that is so clear and so pronounced in that scene is not enough to link it to that. Then you are expecting that your audience is a bunch of idiots.
Well, this is what we have come to agree on, right? They're treating the audience like idiots. But Tam got done dirty. Even in Eamon's Field, his facial hair looks weird. Like his beard and moustache looks super odd. And non-reader friends of mine have said, what is the show trying to do? Like, the people's beards are hilarious. And I was like, well, yeah, you're not wrong.
Also, don't go on. I have something to say here that I've been holding on to. Please. This is in my notes.
Oh, please.
While the choreographed fight scene in that cold open is spectacular, and I love it, it does point out a fact, again, that they can choreograph awesome fight scenes. So why don't they in the others? Like, you watch Tigraine Mantia kick ass, and then you compare her to Steppen and Lan. She's going to walk over those guys. That just, again, highlights like that scene in the camp where Steppen and Lan are doing, like, practicing. It's as if they asked the actors to come up with something. Like, we don't have time to choreograph. Can you guys come, like, talk together and figure something out? Because it looks shit. And then this cold open happens, and you're like, so you have a fight choreographer on your staff? Why didn't you employ them earlier? It's just
when Steppen does that Carter move of like crossing his axes like that, I groaned out loud. I was like, you look like a fucking Power Ranger.
Looks like a child playing outside with his plastic axes. Yeah.
Anyway,
I remember Nynaeve, Zoe Robbins, is a Power Ranger.
She is
play in Power Rangers, so maybe she's like, "Hey, we did some fight.
She choreographed that scene.
I can help you guys."
Maybe, yeah.
Now this one's going to be a bit divisive, I think. Episode 8, Luz Theron and what is her name? Pose de Cume.
Yeah. Something.
Tamerlane, they call her in that scene.
Tamerlane seat. I liked it because
isn't she the Amelin and Luz is the Tamerlane?
Yes.
So that is correct. Book inconsistency, showrunners, get your fingers out your ears.
They didn't have to do anything. All they could have done is just followed that simple discussion, which is something that we covered in the Striker Shy Goal really not too long ago.
Conveniently, yes.
I like it. I loved all of it. I loved how the characters were used, that was a discussion. It's fantastic. It gives you history. It shows you the type of world that they lived in. All of it is great. Like, I really, really liked it. And that is an example of a small tidbit that you can throw in there that explains a tremendous amount. Now imagine instead of them in the first one, if they actually used the prologue of the book and showed him in the madness killing his family.
And then bookended with Luz Theron again at the end, like
a memento, you're going backwards.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is just the base.
Yeah. Luz Theron.
Look at like you say, delivering information in a cool way. What I didn't like when I was watching it now for the third time, I don't recall, is she is telling Toulouse, like, you're not going to do this. Like, don't do it, because you're going to expose the one power to the dark one. He is going to corrupt it, and then you're going to throw the world back 1,000 years. She's spot on. She just assumed, like, that's unrealistic. But then the camera pans out the window and you see that scene from episode 1 of that destroyed city, and you go, oh, he did do it. The dark one did taint the source. So he did throw it back. It fits narratively, but it's like, really, she knew all that was going to happen. Bit of a stretch.
This is the least of the gripes that I have. At least this gives the non-book reader a good understanding of when they talk about the Age of Legends, and it functions. It works. Did you pick up the ring on Luz's hand?
Yep.
Same as
ring
Balsamon.
that Balsamon's wearing.
Yeah. I also noticed that when Balsamon channels, he doesn't use his hands. It's all very relaxed. Just twitches. The same as Logain. When Logain attacks Gaelden, he's just standing with his arms at his side. And he's also just moving his fingers and his hands. I wonder if that's how they differentiate how men channel and women channel in the show. Like women
also
are very
straight
much
up
more
say in the
flowing.
show that you don't need your hands or anything like that.
But like who
It's all a
trained
crutch.
Logain? Maybe he's just figuring it out as he goes along, you know?
Maybe.
And that's why he doesn't.
Maybe
he
he really.
crux.
Maybe he really is hearing the voices of dragons past.
Who knows?
You know, the madness doesn't mean that he doesn't necessarily have access to that information. The taint or the corruption could actually be relaying that information.
No, maybe he ran into a gleeman riding on the sun car.
What I didn't like about that last cold open is that they don't actually say what Lucera's plan was. What is this thing that he wanted to go do?
Yeah.
So, you know, it's all this talk about you're not indestructible. Like everything she says fits because we know, but for non-readers, it's still kind of ambiguous.
But he kind of explains it when he speaks to his child in the crib, saying, "Today's the day that Daddy makes the world safe again."
What does that mean?
Yeah.
Imprisons the Dark One.
We know that.
Yeah,
but it
there's no
doesn't
mention of it. Like, I'm going to imprison him. I'm taking 99 other guys or 100 guys.
He could be talking about killing himself. You know, it could be literally anything.
Right.
All right. So that's
and it's
all
not
that I had on the
99. Why are they harping on 99?
Yeah, that's wrong.
Can't they just say 113 or whatever it was?
Well, it's too confusing for the viewers. It is 100 companions means 100 people flat. I was going to say this is all that I had on the docket for our discussion. I now open the floor for any other business. Did you guys have anything else you wanted to touch on or discuss at length?
Some of the things that I am very passionate about, and also always set design, costume design, that I really enjoy in something that is of a certain era. And now second, third rewatch completely, I stopped looking at the characters in their mid lines and start looking at the background, start looking at the things, and started picking up just a few sloppy things that could have, and again, kudos to them, very, very little of it, but still being picked up. Peyton Fane's wagon, for instance, is so beautifully done, but then you've got this one screw in cheap hook that you'd screw into a wooden door to hang a towel on in a cloakroom in a poor school type of thing.
Very specific.
Yeah, you know what I mean, like a circle, like
box standard pewter.
Yeah,
hooks.
Yeah. That's straight up just one of those screwed in to hold up a chain. Sort of a last minute type fix that
is this going to be a long list, Phil? If we're going into that detail.
No, the armor, and this goes even down to what is my favorite scene in the whole of everything, Blood and Snow cold opening. But Tam's armor, again, painted. It's not metal, it's painted plastic or leather or whatever they used. It's really, really poorly done. Like,
I did not see that. I noticed the bees.
Me neither.
The intricacy of every little bee. I thought that was cool. I actually looked at his armor and thought, I like that. I did not notice that.
Metal. Go have a look at it. It's painted, plastic, or leather, or 3D printed. Whatever they did, it's not metal armor. Yeah, the beauty of this is metal is durable. You can use it for all 8 seasons. Come on, people. Just make some fucking armor. And that's where I'll leave it.
All right, that. I did notice because Billy, like one of our previous videos, you mentioned about the door in the background having like hammered steel or something on it, or the door handle was, you could see it was handmade. in Faldara, when they're knocking on the doors in the morning to get everybody, you can tell like the work on the doors, the metal work on the doors is so well done and so much detail. You can see the hammer dents in the metal, and I'm just wondering, like, that's a lot of effort to emulate. Perhaps they just used a set that already had doors, like they were in a place like that. That already,
maybe. But we know they built the whole Emansfield, and to have that sort of level of detail of work, then clearly they should have had a blacksmith. No, we can't say for sure that it's Perrin or not, but there must have been a blacksmith that did some of this metal work for them. Why didn't that blacksmith, or did he never get his armor degree? Like, oh no,
no,
I'm limited to door latches and hinges, but I can make the odd like spike, but please don't. I can make the Trollocs sheaths. That's the limit of it. But don't ask me to make armor. All right, cool.
Probably
We've
wasn't
got a
one
3D
guy.
printer, and we'll just print up some armor and paint it so it looks like silver and gold.
All right, well, I'm going to go watch all of it again now, and I'm going to go take stock of everybody's armor.
Yeah, check it out.
So you do that.
The armor looked pretty spot on.
You do that, and then
I didn't have an issue with any of Agelmar or the White Clerks or the Eleanor armor, but I'm clearly
metal
not
don't bend when the body moves.
All right.
It stays rigid. It's the purpose of it.
I'm familiar with metal.
I've seen some metal.
I understand your gripe, yes.
Some things that we did like. Maybe we can just pop up some things just to end on a high note. I feel very sad. I'm thinking like the Perrin and the Wolves thing. I know it wasn't well explained, but I'm glad it's in there that they're going with it and that you can see the wolves. I'm wondering though if
scraping the bottom of the barrel, if we're glad that they've included the entire wolf arc. At least it's in there.
I'm thinking that wasn't it Elias communicating with the wolves who noticed something in Perrin and is herding them. It's not just the wolves that connected with Perrin. Maybe it's Elias helping the wolves guide Perrin towards the Tinkers.
I think you scraping. Like,
that's not something
in the words
of
Bilbo Baggins. Like two little butters scraped over too much toast.
Exactly. No, but I thought that I liked the wolves, that his affinity for the wolves is there. And then it just made me think that, like, while I was watching that episode, I thought, oh, maybe Elias is communicating with the wolves and telling them to herd. I don't know. That's what I thought, because I want to see Elias so badly. What was the other thing? No, I've forgotten now. You're going to cut this. You're going to edit that part out.
No. Let's think. What is something that I loved about
Loghain begging for death? I've written that down, but seriously, in that thing where him, like, Alvaro Morte did a great job with the acting. Like, I really enjoyed his acting, and that scene where, you know, like, once you've been cut off from the power, you see, that's an effective short scene to show what happens, like with the water bond. You didn't have to go through all that step and shit.
No.
Kill me, please. I can't live like this. Dragged out of there. Kill me. You know, and that's it. I get it.
When
end of story.
In that specific scene, when Leandrin severs the connection or gentles him, his head being thrown back and two tears falling out of his eye, and his hair hitting one of the tear drops, and that teardrop splitting into like several smaller drops. That was brilliant. Yeah, like I shed a tear in that moment. That was just a fantastic, like, you've got these scenes in between that are just absolutely masterfully done. Yeah. And that is the glimmer of hope that I keep holding on to. I love that the Aiel have been introduced twice now in the Blood and Snow Cold opening, as well as when Matt and Rand go into that unnecessary village town and have their little dark friend fight there.
More importantly, when Tom and Matt bury the Aiel, and Tom gets a lot of sort of like Aiel info. Yeah.
Then the third point in that is when what is the blue Aes Sedai's name that Moiraine has the meeting with?
Megan.
Yeah. She says specifically, Aiel have been spotted on this side of the spine. So it's the whole Aiel coming over has been brought forward quite a bit. So I'm hoping that we're going to have that resurrect real combat and what we want to see a bit
up
into
the scale.
Yeah, up it. It needs to be cranked up a bit.
But that also segues me, Willie. I yell across the spine in the world, and ships are going missing on the west coast. We did not discuss the Sean Chan.
No, we haven't.
The last thing that we see in this season. What are the thoughts there?
Everybody seems to think that the Sean Chan went way OTT to create a tidal wave for that little girl. In what world are they doing that for her? Like, I'm surprised that people think that the Sean Chan created that tidal wave to deal with a small girl on a beach. Obviously not.
No. I don't think they even know she was on the beach.
No, they didn't. They absolutely did not. They are definitely combining the Sean Chan and the Sharons into a single race. Because it's not like the Sean Chan to rock up and destroy. They already, in their minds, own everything. They'd be destroying their own property. They're coming on shore and making people swear the oath again, killing the people that should have been keeping an eye out for them, and just assimilating the population, not destroying it. This is a far more aggressive approach from the Sean Chan, and they also look far more barbaric than the depictions in the book. All the ships have these like weird tusks and teeth on them, and like I like what they've done with the Damane, like that muzzle contraption instead of the collar is even more unsettling, if there is such a thing, than what you read about in the books. I thought that was cool. And then it looks like the Suldam are the ones with like the hardcore facial tattoos and are like also very, very
facial paints on them. I didn't know if that was that.
They don't.
They're crazy bastards.
They still have the collars, but it's kind of like a brace that's much, much bigger. It's like all gold or brass, whatever, up to their necks. And then the Suldam have the whole bracelet, like Wonder Woman style kind of things.
They've got this, the Damane have this thing in their mouth.
The thing in their mouth.
Yes, as well. Yeah, it's hardcore. So I like the design as well. I'm very, very cool. I like
helmets also looks good. I specifically looked at
the Death Watch guards look like standing on the top there. Those Ogier Death Watch guards. No spoilers. But yeah, the attack, that tidal wave, if they had put a town or a city as their target, just some cliffs, we're throwing a tidal wave into the cliffs. Why? It seems like again spectacle to put something on the screen that looks awesome.
Death by erosion. We're going to show these. We're going to show these people just how unstable their topsoil is.
They're bringing new topsoil from their lands. Oh man.
What else? I mean, I loved, like I said earlier, the scene with Moiraine and Egwene. I loved Moiraine's sort of duplicitous nature. She does a lot of wordplay, almost like skirting and crossing the line of lying. There's this point in Tarvalon where she says to, I think, Perrin and Egwene that I have people stationed at the gates and I will know if your friends arrive, after she's already found Rand and Matt and Nynaeve. So she knows where everybody is, but she still doesn't tell them whether. I mean, she probably still does have those people on the walls and is expecting them to relay some information if they had to get it, but she would know that they couldn't get it because they're already there, that sort of thing. So, but anyway, but they do a lot of cool, fun wordplay stuff. When they are about to meet those White Cloaks in episode 2, is it 2? And she quickly turns around, she says, I'm a lady from a fallen house and you are all under my care, blah, blah, blah. This is our backstory. I didn't even click that she was speaking the truth. I was like, okay, cool, she's telling a lie. And I didn't even but no, she is playing, it's all above board. That's exactly right. And all of her wordplay about having a sister in Whitebridge and all that stuff, I thought was really cool. The act that she puts on about, it was a beast with like a muzzle and, not calling it a trolloc, anything like that, played it perfectly to the point where, to the extreme point where Jeffrey Bornell tells her to go seek out an Aes Sedai for healing. Which is
a couple of moments in that scene as well. If what was the other guy's? Eamon Volder really wanted to know if she's an Aes Sedai, he could have just asked her, are you an Aes Sedai? Because she can't lie. So there you go. What's with the whole little game and touching her and rubbing his hands all over and stuff? Like, just ask her straight out.
Yeah. That was ridiculous.
Anyway. For the story,
way to turn the scene that I just said I liked into another criticism.
No, this is funny. I'm not bashing it at all.
I like Shadar Logoth. I liked the dead quiet and the crunching of that like ash underfoot, because you know what the ash is, you know, like that them's be dead people that they're walking on, you know, like that was quite menacing. It looked quite cool as well.
One of my favorite shots
in general.
The cities, talking of, my favorite shot is Tarvalon at night with all the lights on in the streets and the windows. It is beautiful. That's a pausable moment, you know, like definitely.
I really loved the shout out for our podcast a couple of minutes into when the boys walk into Tarvalon and Rand just shouts out blood and ashes.
Blood and ashes.
Thanks, buddy.
Cheers, dude.
You called?
Yes. I noticed that.
Yeah. There's a lot to like, and I mean the source material is so great, and we are obviously so invested in it that, you know, the show would have to go pretty seriously awry for us to not be invested anymore.
Yeah, that's, I mean, all the stuff we've spoken about, that's where my 6.5 comes from. But I think like after this video, we can all assume that like you can boil the show down into like one phrase, and that's missed opportunities. Like I think they had everything at their disposal: the money, the source material, the great acting, the great cast, the directors that they got. Maybe Willie is like Willie's, that maybe the music let them down a bit or whatever, but like they had everything, and yet it was not perfect. God damn it.
Look, they had challenges. They had COVID, that Bonnie Harris situation. I mean, so okay, they had challenges. So I mean, I'm more than willing to let this one pass and say, okay, where to from here? Let's see what they can do with season 2 now. I'm still 100% on board. I'm not going like, oh, this is not my Wheel of Time. I'm moving away. I'm excited to see things that are going to be different.
The best thing that they can do is just take all the criticism that comes their way and use it constructively, saying, okay, let's focus more on combat. Let's amp up the waters, because that seems to be a common gripe throughout the entire community. One thing that I do appreciate, it seems that the cast as well as the writers are quite engaging with the Wheel of Time community. And there is a lot of discussions and interaction all through different channels. So
Amazon
perhaps
used the content creators that we follow in like their screening events and stuff. You know, they are very much plugged into the Wheel of Time TV show. Follows our podcast on Twitter. You know, like there is a lot of interest in Wheel of Time content creation, and I'm sure they listen. There's special messages, you know, from Rafe to the communities for like all the different conferences and stuff. There's a lot of interaction, a lot of ask me anythings and that sort of stuff, which is heartening. I mean, they are fans, you know.
Yeah. I mean, they get a lot of these very negative people, as we have encountered them. Rafe hasn't even read the books. What the fuck are you talking about? Of course he's read the books. He's been harping on about the books his whole life, just like we have.
He's also been hemmed in by, you know, forces greater than his creative.
Yeah. I mean, he wanted 10 episodes and he wanted a double pilot.
2-hour
didn't get any of that, and it shows, you know, like it's not all his fault.
All right, boys, should we wrap this thing up? It's almost midnight.
All right. What are you talking about? It's 10 to 2 in the afternoon.
What I wouldn't give to be in Spain right now. Okay, so any final thoughts? I know I've asked that already, and that spun us off in another half-hour discussion, but anything else you guys feel must be said that hasn't been said before?
I'm looking forward to season 2.
My score.
You need to change the score.
I can't do 7.5 anymore. I'm back to 7.2.
All right. Okay. Gone down a bit.
Well, your gut instinct was right. You were right on the money then.
Well, yeah, look, none of us gave this show or season 1 a glorious standing ovation, but all of us are going to watch season 2. And I'm looking forward to season 2. I want to see where they're going from this. Having said that, if after season 2 finishes, they say, look, we're canceling the show, I'm not going to cry any tears. Like, we got 1 and 2 seasons. They tried. It didn't work. Fine. Move on with my life. I'm not going to be.
I'll go back to my campaign for getting an animated Wheel of Time show, so that you don't have to skip the books and condense and like worry about aging actors and all that sort of stuff.
And hire the studio that did Arcane. That's the animation I want. Oh. If anybody hasn't watched Arcane on Netflix, go do it now. And you'll see why.
Okay, then. So obviously you have found us on YouTube and you know that we are Blood and Ashes, but what you might not know despite watching all of this, is that we have a podcast called The Blood and Ashes, which is a Wheel of Time spoiler cast where we do we are doing a full spoiler reread of the books. We're currently up to close to the end of The Shadow Rising. You can use it as a reread companion at any time, but we started the books about 18 months ago, again, in anticipation of the show, obviously, but we are doing a couple chapters every episode and then discussing them with full spoilers and all the foreshadowing, so we can do all the cool water cooler talk about what we've read every 2 weeks. You can find us on any podcast streaming platform, on social media. We're at Blood and Ash Pod on Twitter. Reach out to us there if you want. Do please like and subscribe to our channel if you like anything that we're doing here. If you've made it to this point in the video, you might as well take a second to now just click on subscribe so that you can see when we do more of these videos. The notification button, I think, will let you know. I don't know, I'm a YouTube noob. But we do plan on doing a lot more videos. Like I mentioned before, I'll be doing one with a couple of my non-reader friends to find out exactly what they think of the show and why. And on that note, I will bid you both a fond adieu.
Adieu to you.
Well, thank you.
Much adieu.
About nothing.